Here we go. Got it. Okay. Just going to stop that when it comes on, because I need to stop the audio, otherwise it.
Good old days. God, good old days.
Okay, and back in there. All right, so welcome officially, Aurelie and Christine, if you want to join us, hopefully soon, to the evening session of day 6 of the Art of Letting Go course. We're going to be doing wholeness, reading and discussing Wholeness and Spirit, which is section 5 of chapter 1. So I've started doing the translation. We're going to translate it as well. 6 paragraphs, so I think you know the drill. Aurelie, if you want to read read each sentence in the original form, and then down below in the grey in the translated form, and then we'll just kind of unpack it as we go.
This one's been corrected already.
Yeah, I thought I'd save some time.
So the correction, so do you want me to read the original first?
Read the original and then read, yeah, so that you get the translation.
The miracle is much like the body, in that both are learning aids for facilitating a state in which they become unnecessary.
Okay, and then alternative.
The correction is much like the body, and that both are learning aids for facilitating a state in which they become unnecessary.
Yeah, so does that make sense? Welcome.
No, I'm not understanding this actually, but sometimes I get lost in translation.
Okay, so correction, this is your second language, isn't it? So correction is much like the body. Both are learning aids, facilitating a state in which they become unnecessary. Okay, so they're learning aids or devices for facilitating a state, the ultimate state of mind, pure formless awareness of perfect love, in which they become unnecessary.
Is it the miracles with an S, or was it the corrections?
Correction, the miracle.
No,
so he uses it in the singular.
Okay.
The correction. Like the so he just uses it as a singular, but he's referring to these shifts, you know, change in mind, change in perception.
Unnecessary.
Much
So they
like
become unnecessary if we are in that pure formless awareness of perfect love, right?
No, because they're only necessary when something seems to be amiss, when there's something gone wrong, which only happens in time and space, in the domain of perception, in the world of bodies.
Yeah,
no
that's
corrections
what I mean
are necessary
by
in heaven.
saying.
Yeah. So that state, I capitalize it, because that state is the ultimate state, pure formless awareness of perfect love.
Yeah, that's what I meant in the fact that they become unnecessary if you are in the state of pure formless awareness.
Yeah, exactly. No, there's no need for miracles, corrections. They're not necessary. But while you here living apparently as a body in time and space, they're very useful. You need to make the corrections to facilitate the state in which they become unnecessary. It's the journey. And it's like the body, really, is a key point. And that both are just learning aids. So you can learn through the body. The body gives you sensory perceptions and experiences in this world that can be useful. You can learn through those. It's a learning aid to facilitate this ultimate state.
And what does the word both means there? Like what both refer to?
Both refers to the miracle or the correction and the body.
Oh, okay.
Much like the body. So they're similar in that both are learning aids. So the corrections are learning aid, and so is the body a learning aid. Okay. The body gives you the experiences in time and space that often lead to the need for correction. So the body facilitates the learning, you see? So through the body, you have experiences of the ego, which then brings it into awareness to be corrected. So without the body, you wouldn't have those experiences. You wouldn't be able to correct your mind. So it's useful. Without the body in this world as a mirror, how would you correct your subconscious mind? Well, the answer is you wouldn't. You come until you've actually made that correction, done the correction.
Okay.
Okay. Clear on that?
Yeah.
Recording in progress.
Right. Christine, you need to just cut one of your the mirror effect. So log out on your phone. There we go. Then it won't have the echo. Great. Okay. So number 2.
When spirit's original state of direct communication is reached, neither the body nor the miracle serves any purpose. Yeah, basically, that's what we just said.
Yeah, it's just restating the same thing. So,
when
spirit
spirit's original
is,
state of direct communication is reached, neither the body nor the correction serves any purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. So spirit is
pure formless awareness of perfect
pure
love,
formless awareness.
or when the
Yeah.
state of pure formless.
Yeah. And the state of, well, then he goes original state of direct communication. When pure formless
awareness.
How about as the, instead of this, because I don't like the awarenesses.
Yeah.
And pure formless awareness as the original. So it's the original state, right? As the original state.
Yep.
Of direct communication is reached.
Yep.
Neither the body nor the correction serves any purpose. Okay. So in direct communication, you would be in this awareness.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other awareness going on. So direct communication, it's a direct experience. You know, we use communication, original state.
Communication with the Holy Spirit, right?
Well, it's communication with this awareness, with God. Maybe we could translate that as experience. What do you think? Does that work?
Yes.
Direct experience.
Yeah.
Is reached because it's a direct experience of that awareness. You are in that awareness. You have that awareness. There is only that awareness.
Yeah.
Are you communicating with that awareness, or are you just in it? See, it's all language. I mean, we're trying to describe what's beyond language, which is always the problem.
Yeah.
But if we're translating, let's try and get as accurate as possible. So it's a direct experience. You're not really communicating as such. I mean, understand, it's a higher level communication. You're in it. You are aware of the awareness. That's the communication that we're talking about. But it's not like something other than you. There's no separation. See, the idea of communication is still a separative concept because it's something that's communicating something else. So direct experience is, I think, better. It just leads us to that. Okay, you can experience pure formless awareness, and that's the only experience you're going to have. And then neither the body nor the correction serves any purpose because they're no longer needed. You're just in the direct experience, and that's you reached home. No corrections required. Okay, welcome, Sally. Okay.
Yeah. While you believe you are in a body, however, you can choose between loveless and miraculous channels of expression. So, while you believe you are in a body,
Put hard at the beginning there, shall we?
Well, next time. No, really.
While you believe you are in a body, you can choose between loveless and miraculous channels of expressions.
Okay, and we might want to change miraculous to
correct or corrective. Yeah,
corrective channels of expression.
Corrective channels of expression.
Yeah. So, exactly, Elaine, to reference your miracle this morning or last night, whenever it was, it was a corrective. You chose between a loveless and a corrective channel of expression, didn't you? You chose to express yourself lovingly while you were in a body.
Absolutely.
So that's exactly what it was.
Yeah. Yes.
So you start to see how practical this teaching actually is.
You can make an empty shell, but you cannot express nothing at all.
Cannot express nothing at all. So you make an empty shell, shell, an empty shell. Maybe there's a translation there. An empty
feeling.
you can make an empty feeling. You can make an empty
vessel, perhaps.
An empty vessel, an empty shell.
An empty.
I can't think of a better word. Can you? Anyone? I sort of understand what he's symbolically trying to say. It's like the ego's empty inside. You know, it's an empty shell. So the shell would be you know, the covering, but inside it's empty. So the ego might look impressive on the outside, it's got the shell, but inside there's nothing in there. That's what he's trying to symbolize. You can make a container, maybe empty container. You cannot express nothing at all. Container, shell. What do you think?
I like an empty shell because that is a known expression which has meaning.
Yeah, it really
let's keep
sounds
it.
better.
I can't think of anything that's going to make it more clear. So we keep the original then.
Yeah.
But you cannot express nothing at all. So what's he saying? You can't, you must express something. Whether you're expressing from the ego or the spirit, you are going to be expressing in this world. Your mind must express. There's no choice in that. Just whether you're going to project from the ego or you're going to express or extend from the spirit. Those are the two choices.
Should that be actually? Should that be nothing, Jono, or anything?
No, you cannot express nothing at all. So you cannot express nothing. Not possible to express nothing. You must express something. So we could make it positive, but you can express. You must express something. You must always express something. Would be another way of saying that. Well, then you cannot express nothing at all. You could say it positively rather than negatively.
Which I think sounds better.
You think so? Okay, let's try. But you must always express
Something. Yeah.
Make an empty shell. It doesn't really go with the first part of the sentence.
No, as I liked it.
Doesn't flow. So I think we're going to keep the original way. You cannot express nothing at all. We understand what he's saying. You must express something. You're either projecting or you're extending from the ego or the spirit. But something's going to be expressed from your mind. Okay, so you can wait.
You can wait, delay, paralyze yourself, or reduce your creativity almost to nothing. Yeah, that's clear.
Creativity. He's talking about creation. So maybe awareness, reduce your
presence or your beingness or presence. No?
How about reduce your awareness?
Okay.
Creativity is really the extent to which you're aware of creation, which is beingness. So your awareness of beingness, or we could use truth there. Awareness of truth or awareness of beingness. Which do you prefer?
Yeah, beingness, or
you like beingness.
Because I was thinking of presence, actually, your presence. Because when you wait, you're delayed or you're paralyzed. Your presence is not there, so it's almost there's nothing
presence
there.
is the
There's
same as
nothing
awareness,
there.
isn't it? Presence is the same as awareness. Your awareness of truth almost to nothing.
Yeah,
I think
that's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. Next.
But you cannot abolish it, so
Cannot abolish it.
it's still there.
Yeah, you can't. How about you cannot destroy it? I think that's clearer.
Or make it disappear. Yeah, you cannot.
Yeah, you cannot destroy it. I think it's very not destroy this awareness.
Yeah.
Destroy your medium of communication. Oh, okay, so he's used abolish, destroy, and then he's used destroy in the next sentence. So that's clearly what he means. So we keep destroy
we
there.
can leave abolish.
You like abolish, okay?
But it would be nice to write abolish this awareness or that awareness.
You cannot abolish it. Well, what we'll say then,
So that it's clear we're talking about the awareness.
You capitalize it, then you're clear.
Mm.
Reduce your awareness of truth almost to nothing, but you cannot abolish it.
Mm.
That should be capitalized as well.
Yeah.
So you can't abolish that awareness. Destroy your medium of communication, but not your potential. You do not create yourself. Okay, so what does he mean by that?
Can destroy your medium.
Well, it means that you can paralyze yourself, but you can never actually destroy your real essential self.
The medium of communication is your mind, but not your potential. So I'm not sure, maybe that needs a bit of translation. Can you really destroy your medium of communication?
Or you make it sick.
And destroy how about your ability to communicate, but not your potential?
But we're talking about the mind, right?
Yeah, we're talking about the mind. Medium of communication is the mind. Destroy your medium of communication. So I'm not sure you can actually fully destroy it, because then there would be no more mind left. But you can
Thicken your mind.
diminish. You can diminish or weaken.
Or weaken, yeah.
And weaken.
Yes.
Your
mind.
Ability to communicate. How about that? Instead of medium of communication, I think that's clearer. And weaken your ability to communicate, because that's really what he's saying. Ability to communicate, but not your potential. And your ability. But not your potential to do it. So you're always going to have the potential to communicate truly with your source.
So it's saying that you cannot weaken your potential.
No, you can't affect the potential, because the potential is always there, because that's the absolute. The potential in your mind will always be there, no matter how much you try and weaken your ability to communicate.
So why don't you add, but not affect your potential then? But not affect your potential. You can weaken your ability to communicate, but not affect your potential.
Yeah, well, the idea is weaken applies to your potential. So weaken your ability to communicate, but you
without
can't
affecting your potential.
No, you can't weaken your potential, because your potential is absolute. It's coming from source, and that will always be the same. So the absolute pure formless awareness of perfect love remains, irrespective of how much you've weakened your ability to communicate. That's our salvation. So we can always go back and we can find it. It might prove difficult if we've weakened our ability to communicate with it so much, which is why the spiritual path can be challenging, because we've put in all the blocks. We've weakened our ability so much, and now we've got to strengthen it. It's like if ever you've had a broken limb, then you suddenly you take off the cast and you've got to put weight on it. It feels weak, and you have to strengthen it. You have to now rehabilitate. It's the same idea, and that's what you're doing when you do spiritual practice. You're rehabilitating your mind so that you can start connecting again and having a direct experience. Going beyond communication leads to direct experience, doesn't it? When you communicate with the spirit, you're aware of it, and that will lead you more and more into the pure formless awareness of perfect love, the direct experience of it. And so then your potential for that becomes actualized in enlightenment. While we're still learning, our potential is not fulfilled yet. We're working on it.
You did not create yourself.
Yeah. So you did not. We would normally translate as extend yourself. See how that works. You did not extend yourself, which is kind of obvious then, isn't it? Of course, you couldn't extend yourself. You're an extension of Source, which extended you. So
unless you're Inspector Gadget, yeah.
Yeah, did not extend yourself. Okay, so what's he saying in this paragraph? Brief summary. Can you give us?
Well, once you are that pure formless awareness, you don't need any correction.
Yeah.
Of your mind, neither for your mind and body, basically. And in that state, you can reach your potential, and you're able to communicate.
And the second part, he talks about, well, while you believe you are in a body. So he's talking about this level now of
Yeah, you can communicate if you believe you are in a body. You cannot communicate with your source or the spirit fully and reach your potential because you're not aware of the truth when you're in your body, right?
Well, you can be. So it's saying, look, you can, while you're in a body, you have a choice between loveless and corrective channels.
You can choose to correct.
You can choose. This is your power here. In the illusion, you can make the choice. You can make the right choice.
Yeah.
And so you can make all these bad choices. Empty shell, cannot express nothing at all. You can wait, delay, paralyze yourself, reduce your awareness of truth almost to nothing, but you can't abolish it. So even if you make a faulty choice, he's saying you could still find your way back because you can't destroy your potential to communicate with spirit. You can only weaken your temporary ability to communicate. Because you did not extend yourself. So that awareness is eternal. It's always going to be there. No matter how much you try and diminish it or weaken it or cover it over. Which is why we can find our way back. Because we never did destroy it. We thought we did. We never could. It's not possible. And so now we can awaken to that potential and make it actual in our experience. That's what we're doing here. That's the process of at-one-ment or enlightenment. Okay, happy with number 1. Let's move on to number 2. You would like to read number 2.
Fine.
Yeah.
Basic decision of the miracle-minded is not to wait on time any longer than is necessary. The basic decision of the correction-minded is not to wait on time any longer than is necessary.
Not to wait on time, maybe that could do a bit of translation, not to, how about delay in time, might be clearer.
What does that mean then? How do we delay in time?
Not to delay in time.
To correct your mind.
Oh, correct your mind, yeah.
So if we don't do the corrections, then we delay in time. We hold on to our stuff. We keep playing out the same patterns of negative thoughts and behavior. We hang on to our addictions, onto our dramas, onto our special relationships, and we delay. We don't do the corrections that are necessary.
Yeah.
So when you're on this track, you're saying, okay, I'm done with delaying, procrastinating. I'm on the fast track now. I'm going to do the corrections as and when are necessary to awaken. And I'm not going to delay in time any longer than is necessary. So one more life, I'll get it. I'll learn my lessons quickly. I'll do the corrections as they're needed, and I'll learn my lessons in this life, and I'll go home. That's the basic decision of the correction-minded miracle worker.
Definitely on fast track.
Yeah. Yeah. So no more delay. You don't, because you recognize that if you don't let go, you're just delaying the inevitable. You have to let go at some point. So, you can delay that, as he says. You can delay, wait, delay, paralyze yourself, or reduce your awareness of truth almost to nothing. And you see people all the time who do that, who are kind of paralyzed and stuck. But if you realize that that's just pointless, the only way is to let go, do the corrections. Then you don't, why would you want to delay?
Yeah, get it over and done with.
You're on the fast track, and it's like, okay, so let's just accelerate this. Let's do the corrections more quickly, more easily as they arise. If you can correct something as it arises, and be done with it in a matter of seconds or minutes or two, on the fast track. You don't have to be in a negative state ever, really. But if it arises, you can get out of it quickly, because you're just like, this doesn't serve me at all. So I'm going to do the correction and go back to my right mind.
Yeah. Okay, number 2, time can waste as well as be wasted. Time can waste as well as be wasted.
Time can waste, So what does he mean by time can waste as well as be wasted? Time can waste. So you look at the meaning of the word waste, to waste away. Say someone's wasting away. Let's say they're sick or they're aging. So time can waste.
All right.
As well as be wasted. It can degrade, deteriorate through this process of time, which is common in our human experience. It wastes us away, and eventually we die. So don't just waste time. What he's saying here is you can waste time, and then you're more likely to waste away. You see people as they get older, the ego is not kind in old age, is it? It's really not. So it's kind of saying, "I'll catch a wake up," because times you're wasting time, and time will waste you away. And if you haven't learned your lessons, then it's a missed opportunity in this life. You have another one in another life, but why not take the opportunity now? The time can, should we leave waste a minute? Time can waste as well as be wasted. It sort of connects with the next part. So I think perhaps leave that. Just needs a bit of interpretation maybe for people.
Carry on.
Okay, number 3.
The miracle worker therefore accepts the time control factor gladly. The correction worker therefore accepts the time control factor gladly.
That's the beginning of the sentence, because it makes the sentence a bit smoother, doesn't it? Therefore, correction worker, correction maker, to keep worker, the worker of corrections, the maker of corrections.
Correction maker, maybe.
On the maker of corrections. Correction maker, simple, I suppose. Correction maker accepts the.
You want me to say it? Oh. Therefore, the correction maker accepts the time control factor gladly.
So what does he mean by that? Well, he actually explains in the next one. So if you read the next sentence here, I'll tell you.
Tell the original. He recognizes that every collapse of time brings everyone closer to the ultimate release from time, in which the Son and the Father are one. He recognizes that every collapse of time brings everyone closer to the ultimate release from time, in which the extension and the source are one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the time control factor of miracles or corrections is that they collapse the need for time. We've discussed this before in the previous sections. Whole intervals of time. You make a correct decision, a whole interval of time can be cut out. So you don't need to then experience certain things, which saves time. So you collapse the need for time, collapse the need to be on the timeline. Look at the timeline of consciousness. So you make a decision here, a miracle-minded decision. You perceive it differently, and maybe going forward, you don't need to experience the next trauma. That's cut out and saves you time and a lot of hassle because you learned the lesson. You actually let go of the belief that would have caused that karmically. Now that's no longer there. Well, you just saved yourself that lesson. So you collapse the time required to go back. You don't need to dally in time on the timeline for any longer than is necessary.
Yeah, I experienced that a couple of times today.
Did you?
Mm.
Want to share more about that? Or?
I was just doing some energy alignment work with somebody, and twice the time stood still. You could feel everything change, and then when he opened his eyes, he was like a different person. He could see life differently.
Mm.
Yeah, I can totally see how it collapsed, how it just changed him so completely.
Mm.
He spoke differently, he looked different.
So he's gone into this higher awareness then,
yeah,
which is another reality, another self, another reality that then comes back into the domain of time, and then he looks different and his voice is changing. So it's a reset, which that might have saved him many years of time, of experiencing his old self, learning lessons the hard way. That recalibration could cut out a huge chunk of time that would have been necessary.
Yeah.
So he said at some point in one of the previous sections that the miracle, the correction, can save thousands of years. I mean, that's extraordinary. Thousands of years. So he's not talking about one lifetime. He's talking about hundreds of thousands of years. It's like 100 lifetimes.
Yeah, I actually got a sense of that with this guy. That was lifetimes.
Through that correction, it's lifetimes corrected. So you might have saved him 100 lifetimes, and he has to come back and do the same thing over and over and over again, which is kind of extraordinary. But then there's no order of difficulty in correction or miracles, is there? So because it's coming from the place beyond time, it can collapse all time, ultimately will, and anything here is possible. If you can play with time itself, time is the time and space, or the kind of construct of the matrix, the foundations. You play with time and space, then anything's possible. And Spirit knows, well, these aren't real, they're just beliefs. Time and space are merely beliefs, it tells us. So it's a fixed belief in your special identity on the timeline and the past and the future that roots you in time and space. That makes the belief real, and then miracles are not possible. So the miracle, the correction, looks at all of this and says, no, it's not real. That allows this higher awareness to arise naturally. And then you come back in, reinterpret your dream, and now you're a transformed person, and your thoughts, your words, and your actions going forward are different. And you might have saved yourself thousands of years just by doing that correction. And every collapse of time. So did you get a sense that it was bringing your release closer? Every collapse of time brings everyone closer to the ultimate release from time.
I definitely felt the correction. And we were in it together. So yeah, I guess so. Yeah, amazing.
So you see it in another, it brings your ultimate release closer as well, because you're seeing it's possible.
Oh yeah, because he's a reflection of me, isn't he? Yeah.
So it brings you closer to the ultimate release from time, which is why you're always healing yourself.
Yeah.
I'm always collapsing time for myself and healing myself, even when I'm being a miracle worker and I'm helping someone else to shift. I'm actually helping myself because they are my projection.
Yeah, I'm getting clear on that. Yeah.
The healer heal thyself, which is one of the reasons why healing work is a speed up mechanism. It's a great purpose to have, because the more you're healing so-called others, the more you heal yourself if it's been done correctly. And so it speeds up your process of collapsing time. And they heal, and then a part of you heals when you do that. Inevitably. Okay, number 5, equality.
Equality does not imply equality now. Okay, what's the next one down? Oh no, I did that.
Equality does not imply equality now. And then he kind of explains it.
I'll carry on then. When everyone recognizes that he has everything, individual contributions to the sonship will no longer be necessary. When everyone recognizes that he has everything, individual contributions to the extension.
Extensionship doesn't really work, does it? To the extension will no longer be necessary. So there'll be no individual selves, there'll be no specialness, individual contributions are meaningless if we're all one. So there is no individual. But we must all recognize that we have everything. So that's what he means by quality does not imply quality now. So he's talking about in time. I'm going to change that to now. It's not implying quality now on the timeline. So on the timeline, we still, we seem to be separate people, individuals going a lot of business, seemingly living separate lives, separate minds. So right now, equality does not imply that it hasn't been fully realized yet. It's the ultimate truth, but it hasn't been fully realized. It's still a potential rather than actual state. But when you recognize that you have everything, and you really go into this awareness, then it becomes actual. So a shift, a correction will make it actual rather than potential. And then individual contributions to the extension will no longer be necessary. So the individual contributions that can only happen in the sequence of a temporal life, a human life, making individual contributions to your own personal experience and various things that you do and events and circumstances that unfold for you. That's all undone. There's no need for time anymore. Yeah, no problem, Christine. Too hot. Wow. 9 degrees here. That'll be great. 30 degrees, Cape Town. Heat. Anyway, summer's coming. Summer's coming. In the meantime, we just forget the weather and focus on waking up from the dream. Where there is no hot and cold and summer and winter, seasons and change. Okay, so does that make sense?
Yeah, collapse time now. correct the beliefs, become at one, and then recognize we have everything. We have it all.
When everyone does that, then the dream will be over. Until then, it's a work in progress. Okay, number 3, someone else. Elaine, you want to read that? When the at-one-ment has been completed.
Excuse me. When the atonement, throat still a little bit croaky. When the atonement has been completed, all talents will be shared by all the sons of God. When the atonement has been completed, all talents will be shared by all the extensions of pure formless awareness of perfect love.
Let's make that just the extensions of perfect love, and say it as, read it again, but say at-one-ment instead, because that's really the it's not actually a change in word necessary, but it's a change in the pronunciation of it that makes the difference.
When the at-one-ment, when the at-one-ment has been completed, all talents will be shared by all the extensions of perfect love.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all the talents, all individual talents will be shared. They'll collapse into one. You say all talents will be shared. I mean, the idea of talents in heaven is meaningless, isn't it? There are no talents. It's just pure formless awareness of perfect love. But he's trying to get us to look at the idea of talents, special abilities in this world, and bring that idea to perfect love. This is the correction he's making. So, okay, all talents will be shared. Yeah, well, I mean, there won't be any need for any more talents, special abilities, because we'll simply be one. Do you see what he's doing? He's applying this oneness logic to everything in time and space, and helping us to take it into the oneness. So all talents will be shared. That's how he's expressing that. By all the extensions of perfect love. Yeah. Next one. God is not partial.
God is not partial, and pure formless awareness of perfect love is not partial. It's full.
Partial. I'm going to say biased, maybe. All its children have its total love. Partial. He's talking about part. Part is the root, isn't it? So partial, because it's whole. It's not partial. And our understanding of partial is that we are partial to a specific part. So I have a specific love or hate relationship or something with a special person. That's partial. But this awareness is not partial. It's universal. Yeah, I think let's keep partial. I can't think of a better translation for that. Okay, next one.
All his children have his total love, and all his gifts are freely given to everyone alike. All its children have its total love, and all its gifts are freely given to everyone alike. Yeah.
All its children have its total love. All its so children would be extensions, wouldn't it? All its extensions have its total love. All its gifts are freely freely given to everyone alike. To everyone, how about equally instead of alike? Equally. Or equally to everyone. Given equally to everyone. Okay, I'll read it from the translated version from the top.
All its extensions have its total love, and all its gifts are freely given equally to everyone.
So we all have the same awareness. All the gifts are accessible to everyone. And that's the truth. That's the ultimate truth. No one's more special than anyone else. In time, some people may seem to have more access to these gifts than others because they've let go of more of their blocks. Simple. But in truth, everyone has the same awareness and the same gifts coming from that awareness. Okay.
Just
Number
go
4.
straight into the. Except ye become as little children means that unless you fully recognize your complete dependence on God, you cannot know the real power of the Son in his true relationship with the Father. Except ye become as little children means that unless you fully recognize your complete, need to lift it up. Your complete dependence on pure, formless awareness of perfect love, you cannot know the real power of the extension in its true relationship with the source.
Yeah. So I understand what he's saying there.
You've got to understand the pure formless awareness, or you're not going to know the real power and the extension to the relationship with the source.
So you're completely dependent. Yeshua said, it's not my will, but my Father's will. Not my will, but thy will be done. So complete dependence on source because it's your own awareness. How can you have another awareness? Again, that's the meaning of surrender. You've surrendered to that awareness and you've acknowledged that, accepted acknowledgement, surrender. It's the same thing, that you've accepted that that's your only source. There's no other. And I'm completely dependent on that because that's the source of my life. There's no other source. So I'm not falsely attaching myself to the ego, which is just a false self-concept that seems to offer us something else. I realize this is the only truth. And then I start knowing the real power of extension in its true relationship with its source. I'll make it. So a complete, not partial. You're not saying, oh, well, I'll give some of my mind to God and hold some back. It's all encompassing. I give it all. Complete surrender to the will of God. I surrender completely to this awareness that I know is my own true awareness. And I know there's nothing else. So why don't I just abandon myself to it completely, let it take control, let it guide me back to itself through my experience here, by directing my experience in the world. Okay, so next one. Happy with that, Elaine?
Yes. The
5.
specialness, the specialness of God's sons does not stem from exclusion, but from inclusion. Lift it up a bit.
Yeah.
The specialness of pure formless awareness of perfect love's extension does not stem from exclusion, but from inclusion.
We'll shorten it. We'll make it perfect love's extensions does not stem from exclusion, but from inclusion. Okay, interesting point. So no exclusion. It comes from the inclusion into the idea that, you know, we're all the same awareness. So we're special because we're all part of God. All part of the same awareness. Okay, next one.
6.
All my brothers.
All my brothers are special. All my companions are special.
So we're all special because we all have the divine spark in us. We all have this awareness in us. But we're equally special, not separately special. That's the idea. Whereas the ego always wants to be, I'm more special than you. That's its special identity. It's the same special, which means it's not really special. There's no separation in the special. He's playing with the idea of specialness. In the course, he talks about special relationships and specialness as being a key part of the identity of the ego. But you can reinterpret that and say, well, we're all special. We've all got these great gifts of the spirit, none more so than others. So I'm special, you're special, we're all special, which means we're all one. We're all the same special. You see what he's doing? He's playing with the understanding of the word special. Okay, next one.
If they believe they are deprived of anything, their perception becomes distorted.
Yeah.
If they believe they are deprived of anything, their perception becomes distorted. You see?
Don't think I can use translation.
No.
So we believe in the idea of deprivation, of lack, scarcity, and then our perception is distorted because we don't believe we have everything anymore. We believe we're lacking, we're missing something, we're not whole. Okay, and the last one, when this occurs.
When this occurs, the whole family of God, or the sonship, is impaired in its relationships.
Huh?
And when this occurs, the whole family of pure formless awareness of perfect love, or the extension, is impaired in its relationships.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
The whole family of pure form. Whole family of perfect love. So we're all a family of perfect love. It's a nice idea, isn't it? You know, the community, the family of perfect love, and that's everyone, which is the extension of perfect love, is impaired in its relationships. So distorted perception, false ideas impair the relationships, and they are blocks into the awareness of love's presence in the mind of the extension. Block the extension's awareness of its source, and they also block its extension's awareness of each other as extensions of the source. Okay, so that's number 3 done. Can you give us a quick summary of that? What's he saying, Elaine? Summary.
Yeah. Well, we're all special in the pure formless awareness. And well, we're just together to the source.
There's no one who's really special. The talents, the abilities that we seem to have in this world that separate us are not really real. They're actually all, we share them all. Into all of us, we're all equally special. So, as he said, all my companions are special. And if they believe that they are deprived of anything, so they're less special than someone else, remember, comparison is a favorite game that the ego plays. Well, that person's got something I don't have, then I feel less than them. And when that happens, your perception becomes distorted. When this occurs, the whole family of perfect love is impaired in its relationships. So we're not in at one minute anymore. Okay. Any other thoughts on that?
Okay.
Okay, moving swiftly on then to number 4. How about John? Can you read that for us?
Ultimately, every member of the family of God must return. The miracle calls him to return.
Just
Oh yeah.
read the alternative. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do it line by line.
Ultimately, every member of the family of pure formless awareness of perfect love must return.
Yeah, we'll just make it family of perfect love. Must return. It's a very nice. I like this family idea. It sounds really nice. It's an extended family. Yeshua actually said that in his recorded in the New Testament. He was teaching in his hometown, I think, and they said, "Oh, well, your mother and your brothers and sisters are outside," and he replied, and he said, "Everyone is my family. Everyone is my brother and sister."
Yeah.
Which I think peeved his family a bit because they wanted to be, they were a special family. They didn't understand, but he was making the point that we're all one family, irrespective of birth. Biological families are not. That's part of the special construct of the ego. It's the family of perfect love is everyone. And if there's a resonance, as we see in this community, the resonance with people and you have like mind, then that becomes your your spiritual family or your community, as they call it in the Buddhist teaching. They call it Sangha. So you take refuge in Dhamma, the truth. You take refuge in Buddha, which is the true self, and you take refuge in Sangha, which is the community, in those warm, loving relationships that come when you share the truth. Ultimately, everyone, even people who are unawakened, they're still part of the family. They just don't know it, and they would then struggle to connect as they are with someone who's awakening, on a different track. The awakening person, the miracle worker, would still perceive them correctly, saying, "Well, okay, I see you as you really are, not in your distortion and your dysfunction. I see you as the one." Yeah.
The miracle calls him to return because it blesses and honors him, even though he may be absent in spirit. The correction calls it to return because it blesses and honors it, even though he may be absent in spirit.
And a spirit is pure formless awareness.
Mm.
Absent from, or absent from, maybe disconnected from.
Yeah.
Disconnected.
Yeah. Absent has a bit of absolutism about it.
Yeah, disconnected. The correction calls it to return. Every member of the family, perfect love must return. Calls, made it, maybe we need a translation. Calls everyone to return. Because the planet blesses and honors everyone. Even though they may be disconnected from pure formless awareness. So if someone is disconnected and asleep and not aware of pure formless awareness, miracle worker, you can still honor them because you see beyond their illusion, you see the truth.
That continue?
Yeah, you're happy to do that. So number 4.
God is not mocked, is not a warning, but a reassurance. Pure formless awareness of perfect love is not mocked, is not a warning, but a reassurance. So pure formless awareness cannot be mocked because it is pure and
Yeah.
simple in its magnificence. It can't be mocked. So it's actually a reassurance. It's always a reassurance, really.
Yeah.
Possible.
And remember, mock can be interpreted in 2 ways. You can mock someone, that's a sort of derision or scorn, but it's also the sense of a mockery of something is like an imitation. It's a false imitation, isn't it? Say a mockery of that. It's like a makeup. It's false. It's a false substitute.
Oh yeah,
so
okay. Yeah.
You can't really make a false substitute. God, you can't really make a false God, you see?
No,
not mocked.
Yeah, that's an interesting interpretation.
You see that in that word in 2 ways.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah,
both make sense. Both make sense.
Yeah, they do. The creation is whole, and the mark of wholeness is holiness. The extension is whole, and the mark of wholeness is whole awareness.
I think you missed a line, John. God would be mocked if any of his creations.
Yeah. Sorry. God would be mocked if any of his creations lacked holiness. Pure formless awareness of perfect love would be mocked if any of his extensions lacked holiness.
And holiness is remember how we translate holiness?
Awareness.
Yeah. It's just it's the same as pure formless awareness. Whole awareness or pure formless awareness.
Right. Yeah.
So this is totally logical, right? The pure formless awareness of perfect love would be mocked if any of its extensions lack that, because how can they lack that if they're extended from this awareness?
Yeah.
Not possible.
Yeah.
So the ego is just a mockery of love. It's a mockery of this perfect love that's made up a substitute. seemingly a false, illusion of a reality where the extensions of pure formless awareness are now disconnected. They don't seem to be the extensions anymore. They seem to lack pure formless awareness. So the whole thing, the illusion, is a mockery of creation, true creation. Right? This is a false substitute for it. It makes a mockery of pure formless awareness of perfect love. Time and space, the universe of form, is a mockery of true reality. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But it's not really possible. Again, he's taking us back to actually, it's not really possible, because extensions of the source cannot lack what the source is, because they are extended by it. That's just the logic. In infallible logic is, this cannot be then. See, the mockery cannot be real, cannot be existent. And he's giving you the logic, perfect logic, to justify that. Okay?
The creation is whole, and the mark of wholeness is holiness. So the extension is whole, and the mark of wholeness is whole awareness.
Yeah, or we could translate it as pure formless awareness. And then be consistent with the previous sentence. Yeah, I think that makes sense. The mark of wholeness is pure formless awareness. If you're in pure formless awareness, then you have a holy perception. You're wholly aware of what you are. Wholly aware of the awareness. Okay.
Miracles are affirmations of sonship, which is a state of completion and abundance. So corrections are affirmations of extension, which is a state of completion and abundance.
Yeah, any thoughts on that?
Well, corrections are examples of extension, which in itself is a state of, which in itself is a complete state unto itself, and a statement of abundance, and an evidence of abundance.
Yeah, we talked about abundance yesterday, so it carries on. We make the correction, we affirm that we are the extension of our source. So it's an affirmation of the extension, and as the extension of source, we are in a state of completion and abundance, because we are united with the source. We are the pure formless awareness of perfect love. So correction, remember that the most powerful form of affirmation is action. So corrections induce action. You're calling the principles of miracles often, because those are the necessary confirmations or affirmations of the truth that you are the extension of source. And then as you act on these, so you speak and you act, it confirms, yes, I am the extension. I feel that. I see the results. Oh, that works, much better than the disconnection. And then I feel complete and abundant in myself, not disconnected and separate.
So I think the summary is, we are all one family, even if we don't recognize it. And perfect love will always remain, cannot be cannot be replaced or imitated, and we all will return ultimately to source.
Corrections, a key point there. Corrections are affirmations of extension. Remember, whenever you correct, do the miracle, you say, I am love. That's an affirmation of your true nature. You are the extension of perfect love, which is why it feels good. So you're teaching yourself through the corrections that you are what you are in truth. So the mechanism of waking up to yourself is making these corrections over and over and over again, because they just affirm it and they affirm it more until you believe it.
I was thinking this afternoon, actually, that the Course in Miracles is actually the way that we find our own way back to God. It isn't through. It's actually a kind of we must find our own way. We must
He's telling you that if you do the corrections, that you will find the way. It's giving you the way.
Yeah.
He's saying, look, corrections are the way. These corrections through forgiveness or letting go are the way. So, but you must do it. He can't do it for you. You have to make the corrections yourself to find your own way.
Yes, and I think that's the thing that needs to be experiential, in terms of we all have to take it on and not look to blame others, but look to find our own way of correction.
Yeah. So you must forgive or let go yourself. That's your correction. And largely, formal religion is the idea that you don't have to do your own corrections. So the traditional Christian interpretation is that Jesus did the correction for us. So he died for sins, and therefore you saved. And so you don't have to do anything except accept him.
I think that's one of the major differences between the Course and Christianity.
Yeah. That okay, you're saved, you don't have to do anything, but actually if you don't do the corrections in your own mind, then you're not saved. You're still in the illusion. And I've seen that many times with tradition. That's the case, and they haven't corrected their own mind because it's an external. It's like somehow salvation's outside of them, given to them by some other being they called Jesus. But in the end, it comes down to what are your thoughts, what are your emotions. So I think it's a misinterpretation of what he taught, because when he said the only way to the Father is through me, he meant I'm the example, not believe in me, worship me, put me on a pedestal, actually follow my way. To talks as Christian, that is the big thing. So that's really the difference between an authentic spiritual path and a religion that's leading you nowhere.
I think it's a sobering and humbling and yet empowering concept or realization, because it's not a concept, it is a realization.
It's a taking of responsibility. You undertake the hero's journey when you take responsibility for your own state of mind. You say, I must make the corrections. You'll become aware of the problems, the illusions, the difficulties, the ego, and then I must correct, and I must take responsibility for that with the guidance. Yeshua's guiding you, the Holy Spirit's guiding you, you've got help, but you have to be willing to listen. You have to be willing to do it. Otherwise, nothing corrects, nothing changes, nothing shifts, and you remain in under the ego's guidance.
And I think it's also, you know, it's this idea of it's moment by moment through every day.
Yeah. So it's a way of living. What he's teaching us here is it's another way of living, a profoundly different way of living, completely different interpretation of life, of how you interact with life. All of your perceptions change. Totally the reverse of the ego's thought system, which is why it's difficult, because it's a complete opposite. There's no, oh, well, it's just a degree different. It's a complete reversal of it. So that takes a bit of a bit of mind training. And of course, you're dealing with the illusions all the time. So you're dealing with the complete opposite of truth, and now you have to perceive it correctly, make those corrections, moment by moment. It requires a lot of awareness, a lot of vigilance, a lot of awareness. Okay, so what's going on here? Remember the truth. Remember what's really going on. Remember, my only purpose is to correct my mind, to let go of my illusions, come back into my true awareness, moment by moment. That's my only purpose. Which then invites a state of completion and abundance that we call joy and flow. Then we can experience the happy dream. The corrections are the way. Every time we correct, we affirm our source. We're saying, yes, I am an extension of perfect love. And I now connect to that perfect love. I communicate with it. I feel it because I've done the correction. So it's really simple, isn't it? But to actually do it systematically in a disciplined way without making exceptions, that's what expanding our minds can do.
Yeah.
No exceptions. Can't make exceptions. You make one exception, there's the ego again. Then the ego's still got a hold in your mind. You can't have a state of completion and abundance if you have one exception to it, can you?
No.
So it's an all or nothing deal. He says at some point, this course will be accepted entirely or not at all. You hold out even one exception, you haven't accepted it. So you haven't accepted it at all. The ego remains, you're unawakened. It's a process of getting to that absolute clarity, working through all the things you need to correct. So, he acknowledges that. So, look, this is a process. It's going to happen in time. It's okay. I'm going to give you the guidance, and the Holy Spirit and Christ's mind are going to guide you, and it's going to unfold in time. And that's why you need time. So, relax, go with the flow, but you must be making the corrections. Don't delay. Don't, as you said in the beginning, you can delay, procrastinate. So don't delay. Instead of delaying correction, go, okay, I know I need to make a correction. Let me do it. Because the sooner you do it, the sooner you find relief and freedom. And the sooner you restore your mind to happiness. You realize that not correcting just means unnecessary delay, and you suffer more. So when you realize, the inevitability of the truth, then you surrender to it. You say, okay, well, there's no other way. There is no other way than this. Whether you do it through A Course in Miracles or you choose another spiritual path, you'll come to the same point. You have to let it all go. Every negative thought and emotion that makes up your ego has to be let go of. Whichever path you use, whichever techniques you use to do that, they have to be undone. So that's the beauty of this teaching. So clear, and then he's just giving us, okay, here's a very direct way. Let's get directly to the point. Let's not beat around the bush. He's saying you need to do one thing, and that's to forgive or to let go. Very simple. That's all you need to do. And then he's training us. Okay, this is how you do it. This is how it works through this course. Okay. Any thoughts, comments on number 4? Okay, moving swiftly on, doing well today. So number 5, 2 paragraphs to go, just so you know, it's a 6-paragraph section. Let's ask someone else to read. Lynn, can you read for us, please?
Yeah. Whatever is true is eternal and cannot change or be changed. Spirit is therefore,
What was alternatively?
whatever is true is eternal and cannot change or be changed.
Yeah, so that doesn't need any translation.
No.
You understand that the truth means that that's a key distinction. If it's true, then it cannot change or be changed. Right? If it's impermanent, if it can change, it's not true. Therefore, it's not real. Therefore, he's saying, don't attach any value to what can be changed. Value applies only to what is true, and there is no value in what is untrue. So whatever can change has no value at all. This is the distinction he's asking us to make. So everything that you experience in your human life, everything in time and space in this world can change. Everything in form changes. So therefore it is of no value because it's changeable. Therefore it is untrue. It's false. So why are you valuing what is false? Do you see the logic?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I do.
And there's just to hold to that. The correction keeps making the corrections. When you value something falsely, you value what is impermanent and you make it real in your mind, then that's cause for correction.
And it goes on and on.
On and on. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Until the correction is fully made, until there's no more belief in what's impermanent, in the changeable as reality. Once you've made that correction, then you're back in your true awareness, and time is no longer necessary, and you're free.
Yep.
Okay, so number 2, spirit is therefore alterable.
Spirit is therefore unalterable because it is already perfect, but the mind can elect what it chooses to serve.
Okay, so spirit is, remember what the translation for spirit is?
Is it? Oh my God, I can't. Oh God, I can't think of my words. It's the long phrase, isn't it?
So what is our phrase for
I can't think
God?
of what the first word is.
So you had a blank.
Pure formless awareness of perfect love.
Yeah. So we just translate spirit as the pure formless awareness. Pure formless awareness, right? So spirit is that awareness, which kind of hopefully makes it a bit more understandable, doesn't it? Because you can read these words spirit and then like, what does that actually mean? It's intangible. Yeah. So what does spirit actually mean? I think a lot of people don't know. Okay, but if it's pure formless awareness, it's that state of awareness.
That's what it is.
When you're in that state, then you're in spirit. It's a state of mind, so we just use another pointer. And then spirit and God are synonymous. Pure formless awareness is essential to pure formless awareness of perfect love. They're really the same. If you're in pure formless awareness, then you would be aware of perfect love, because that awareness is perfect love. It's whole. There's only one awareness. You see.
Yeah.
I mean, we're using language to try and point to what's beyond language, but I think these pointers are more helpful than, say, God or spirit.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand. Okay, so pure formless awareness is therefore unalterable. You want to change that unalterable, a bit clumsy, unchangeable?
Unchangeable. It's easier for me.
Yeah. Unchangeable. Is that correct? You do have an E in there, don't you? Unchangeable.
Yeah.
Because it is already perfect. Okay, so it doesn't need anything to change, because if it's already perfect, then there's no requirement to change. So spirit doesn't grow. The idea of growth and change is a time concept. So when we say we're growing, you're growing in consciousness. What does that actually mean from our perspective? What it means from this perspective is you're letting go of what you're not. You're cutting away the illusions of your separate self to reveal what's already perfect, what's already there. That's what growth means. So you're growing back to your true self.
Yes.
You're not actually becoming something more. You're becoming less of what you're not.
Yes.
Reveal what you truly are. So that sculpture idea, Michelangelo sculpting the David, was like, cut away what's not the perfect David, and then what's left is the perfect David. Yeah. And it was already there in the block of marble. It was always there.
Just covered up.
But it was covered up. So it had to be revealed by a master craftsman who had all the skill to reveal it. And it's so interesting that he had that mindset, and then he sculpted undoubtedly the greatest, sculpture ever, a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Through that mindset. Oh, I'm just uncovering what's already there. So I don't have to create it, because that's maybe a bit too intense, like pressure. I just have to reveal what's already there. And he must have been guided. Every little chisel, was guided. So it's a great analogy for us, because it's like that true David, the masterpiece of your true self, is there in you already, perfect, unchangeable. And then you just got to chip away. That's millions of blows, millions. He would have done millions of little chisels to sculpt that, millions, just refining, honing, until eventually the perfect sculpture is revealed.
That's something to look forward to.
That's kind of what we're doing, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the process we're engaging. Moment by moment, day by day, you're revealing more of it, and then suddenly, you got that part right, and it reveals, and you go, wow, there's the perfect hand. There's the perfect, and so it's quite exciting, isn't it? It's like, oh wow, it's a whole new self being revealed.
Yeah, breakthroughs are the best feelings.
Yeah. Breakthroughs and moments of awakening, satori, they call it in the East, insight. Oh wow, just so when one of those happens, that's a correction. That's like, you just chipped away another block, and then you revealed some more of the true self. That was a little master stroke, and a big block just went away. But the mind can elect what it chooses to serve. Right? So you can choose which masters. There's, in the Bible, 2 masters, God and Mammon, he called it. You must choose which one you serve, but you can't serve both, because they are opposite. They contradict each other. So the idea that the ego can somehow serve the spirit is ridiculous. It cannot. Some people say, well, as long as your ego is under the control of God, it's a nonsense statement. How can that be? It's the opposite. They completely contradict each other. Okay, so number 3.
The only limit put on its choice is that it cannot serve 2 masters.
Yeah, so that's just stating what I just said.
Yeah.
The only limit placed, maybe?
Yeah.
Placed. Cannot serve 2 masters. Okay, that's why it's a choice. Choice implies that when you choose one, you abandon the other. In fact, the word decide, it comes from the Latin de cadere, which means to cut away.
Mm-hmm.
You cut away when you decide an option, a choice. And then what's left is the one that remains, which goes nicely with our sculptor analogy. You're cutting away what's false to reveal what's true.
Yeah.
Okay, number 4.
If it elects to do so, the mind can become the medium by which spirit creates along the line of its own creation.
Yeah. So if it elects to do so, if it chooses, I think.
Or decides.
Yeah, chooses or decides. Could use either. Chooses, decides. So we leave it as chooses.
Mhm.
It chooses to do so. The mind can become the medium by which spirit being, do you remember?
Pure formless awareness.
And then creates. You remember what the translation for that is?
Remember.
Anyone like to help her?
Extends.
No, extends.
Extends. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
As if nothing was created, really. Nothing new is coming into being. It's the extension of what has always been, what is. So we are extended now. Right now, you are extended from your source. That's why you have an awareness. That's why you can have any kind of awareness, any kind of life, any kind of conversation, because you remain extended by source.
Bless you.
Sneezed on the truth of that. You say sneeze on the truth. It seems to happen quite a lot. Funny. Extends along the line of its own extension. But I should be sneezing all the time. Extends along the line of its own extension. Okay, so what does he mean there? Extends along the line of its own extension. How about in alignment with its own extension?
Yeah.
Might be better. In alignment with. The spirit, being this pure formless awareness, the ultimate awareness, extends through us in alignment with its own extension. So we are now in tune with this ultimate awareness, and it is directing us. This afternoon, I don't know if you were on the call, but I shared that experience when I was in flow on the squash court.
Yeah.
You know, it was like I was just being done through. It just happened through me. So I was being extended in alignment with this ultimate awareness, and it just happened through this channel of the apparent, mind and body. And you when you're in that kind of extension, that's the flow. You feel really connected, highly aware. I was aware that I wasn't the body, and I was aware like some other awareness, and yet at the same time I was fully in it. I was fully present. There was no other thought distracting me. It was a very, very different experience, interesting experience.
I can tell sometimes when I'm way more in flow, when I'm out with my camera, the things I see, the things I capture, the views I find, and the animals I find, and everything appears around me sometimes. It's like
you find when you're in that state, when you're connected to your true awareness, your higher awareness, then the flow is better, and what comes to you in the photos is of a different quality. Something else happens.
I think it probably is. I'm trying to think of because sometimes it's not always just about my photos. If I go out and I see a kingfisher and a fox and a deer and all the different birds and things like that, and I see them all, say, within an hour of each other, that very much feels to me like I'm in flow, because I'm in my joy. I'm in absolute perfect joy for me, It's like the top level of contentment for me. So that feels different. I can go out and find wildlife, even though they're in the middle of the city. I can go out and find wildlife nearly all the time, but there are some times when it's like, fairyland kind of unreal.
So if we really feel in tune, in the zone, in flow, whatever words you want to use, then it's this extension of the spirit, the pure formless awareness extending through us and experiencing. Now we experience it as us. Right? So it's experiencing through us. We have the experience of it coming in and through us. And that feels really good. It feels aligned, in alignment. It feels like, okay, I've got a power with me. It's just happening, and there's no obstructions.
Yeah, all
There's
the stuff's gone, all the stuff that makes me sad or not
drops
feel
away.
good enough, and all those things have gone at those points.
Yeah.
In time.
So it's like a portal. You get into flow, the corrected state, and then you have this direct channel communication, the portal into pure formless awareness of perfect love. And the more you do that, the more you merge with it. You realize, I am that. Right?
Yeah.
This is my true nature. I'm not disconnected and separate from it. I always have been one with it. I've just had the illusion that I've disconnected from it. I couldn't communicate with it, and it wasn't there. So it's like the spirit wants to reach you. It's trying always to reach you, and then we block it.
Yeah.
The awareness of love's presence, our own separate self-concept. We go, no, I don't want that. I prefer this.
Let's have a relationship instead.
Let's have a special relationship, or whatever. We look for substitutes for that. Get attached to material things, money, addictions we talked about the other day, to substances. Addictions you can be addicted to special relationships, to a person, or to the the feeling of it. Another relationship. The people who go from one to another to another. So they're substituting they're substituting all the time for this pure formless awareness that wants to come through, but if you make another choice, cannot, because by your choice you've chosen another reality. So then you must choose correctly to allow it to come through, which is what this whole process is about. The letting go is the correct choice to then allow it to come through.
Yeah, I'm not aware that I'm stepping out of it until I've stepped out of it, and that's the thing I want to change. Because I could stop myself stepping out of that piece.
Well, be aware of the subtleties. It's like, okay, so I'm in flow, that feels really good. Tune into your moment by moment experience. And then, suddenly something changes. I went into my mind, I got a thought. Because that's what it starts at, isn't it? Like, sometimes something comes in, on that level of form, something comes in.
That's all it ever is, isn't it? It's a thought.
Something comes in, something happens, something changes in the external, and then you have a thought and you go, okay, so, and then it begins with one thought, and then one thought leads to another. And if you keep on that track, very quickly, in an emotion. Now you have a thought emotion going on, and that emotion now is difficult to dislodge. It's your pain body. You feel that heaviness, and it was, what was it? It was a sequence of thoughts that led you there, which you can catch in the moment. The moment you have the first thought. So I'm lovely and flow. Let's say hypothetical scenario. You've been in spirit. You've just gone out. You're in bliss. You've taken amazing photo shoot. You've seen all the wildlife. You come back, and then I don't know. You get an email from Mark or something, or something. A text or whatever.
Like today?
Like today. That happened, right? So
that did happen today.
So you get a text.
My phone died.
And then it's like, and then you react to the stimulus, and it's a bit of a shock. And immediately the reaction is, oh, this isn't good. So he's now rejecting me. I feel less.
Actually, what I thought was, what have I just done? What have I just changed in me to attract that? That's actually what I thought. So I didn't get totally lost in the emotion of it all. But I was like, why have I attracted more of that? Kind of sort of like what I said yesterday. It's like, I've attracted another load of that.
Yeah, but okay, so what it is, it's not conscious, you see, it's unconscious. It's your deep-seated ego program that's unconscious that's attracted that. Just realize where it's coming from. It's that self-concept that's still lodged there, that then projects these things out and brings in the experience. So that's happening unconsciously. Now, you can't directly control that. The way to control that is through your perception. Okay, so you collapse perception. When it happens, you get the trigger.
Yeah.
And you let it go. You make the choice in that moment to correct, not to listen to that voice that's telling you you're separate and you're alone and you're abandoned, you're rejected.
Not react.
Not react in that way. You make the correction and you say, no, I'm still spirit. I'm still pure formless awareness of perfect love. I remain in that state. I'm not affected by this. And you let it go in that moment, right? So you make a choice for the truth and you deny the illusion. Now, what you've done then is correct in your own mind the thoughts and the emotions and the beliefs, haven't you, that underlie it. So if we look at let's just find this instrument for peace.
It's funny because Jackie came out and met me as well. We went for a walk together after a while. And we were saying it's the reacting that makes a difference, because anyone could have got the message that I got, and if they didn't have that trigger and they didn't react, it would mean nothing.
Yeah.
Because it's triggering me and I'm reacting, then it's causing the usual nonsense.
So what it does, here's how it works. You know, look at the levels of mind diagram. You get the trigger from the external world. Which actually is a projection of your true self, of your false self. Yeah. So your unconscious belief that you're not worthy of love has actually caused that, but that's unconscious, and you're not under that can't be directly controlled.
Okay.
It happens, stuff happens, shit happens, they say.
Yeah.
The shit that happens is an opportunity for a shift to happen if you perceive it correctly. So now you perceive it from the external, instead of saying, oh, I'm just reacting based on my current, my default programming. You realize that, I'm upset, Mark. Say, no, actually, I'm upset because I believe that I'm unworthy of love.
Yeah.
That's why I'm upset.
Yeah. Yeah, so
it's my own belief, which leads to thoughts that I'm not worthy, that I deserve to be abandoned and rejected, that someone's going to hurt me and then I blame them. At least all those thoughts leads to emotions of feeling unworthiness, feeling abandoned, feeling upset, angry, frustrated, all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's what underpins it. And you understand that this is just the trigger. The text was the trigger, but actually the real cause of your perception is internal, in your own belief.
Yeah.
Right. So the sensory data that comes in from the external world is not the cause. That's actually the effect. It's the projection. So the ego is sneaky. It projects it out there, puts it out into the external world, makes it seem real. Then it comes back and it hits your perception, seemingly from outside. So then
it's hard because you're getting it from two angles, aren't you? Then there's a very fine line in the middle where you just have to have that realization that it's not true.
Yeah, all of it is not true. The projection mechanism, what you're seeing is not true, and your perception of it is not true, because your perception of it is based on the false belief that projected it. So how can it be true then? It's all false. And they reinforce each other. If you believe the story of what it's telling you from your default thought system, then this is all strengthened. The emotions, the thoughts, the beliefs get strengthened, the ego gets strengthened. And then, because you just strengthened that unconscious belief, guess what? It's going to project some more and give you more of the same. Unconsciously, because it's programming the quantum field. So you don't beat yourself up. You go, oh, how did I create it again? You can understand, okay, it's unconscious, it's deep-seated. Okay, but what I can do is I can always change my perception. So the course is directed at changing perception and not projection for that reason. He says projection will change automatically when you've changed perception, because through perception, you go down perception through the layer of emotion, through thought to core belief, and then you go, okay, that's the problem. Same old core belief, Lynn is unworthy of love.
Yeah.
Is that true? You question it. No, it's not true. If it's not true, then I choose now to be who I really am. The prayer of the heart is I choose to be the one self. I choose to be love. I am love. So that would be the correction of your belief. Then your thought must change. If I am love, then I can only experience love. And I I perceive from a point of view of love. I perceive Mark with love because I recognize he's my brother on the journey and he's just learning his lessons.
Yeah.
So my emotion changes. I now feel loving kindness, compassion, empathy. My perception changes. That's no longer traumatic. It's okay. I'm all right with it. I have a fairly peaceful feeling about it. So I've gone all the way down, collapsed the belief again, all the way up, changed my perception, but I've changed the core belief in doing that. And now I loosen the hold of the ego. It's a little bit less strong. It doesn't have quite as much of a hold. So I'm less likely to project something like that out there. But when you start this process, remember, it's mechanism of defense, it's projection. So it's going to keep doing this. Oh, Lynn's waking up. No, that's no good. So let's project out. Get Mark to text her something nasty. Off we go. And then, or another trigger, because it knows your trigger. So it projects these things. But isn't that the perfect opportunity then to become aware of the belief that's projected them? Do you see that?
Yeah.
So now you can perceive it correctly. This is just my own false belief being projected out. Oh, this is great because I can see it in the open. It's in the mirror that the world presents. It's not hidden anymore. I can see it. Oh, great. Okay, so now I can do the correction. I can correct that belief, let it go, and then I'm undoing this crazy projection perception mechanism. And when that's all undone, then you're back in spirit, which is just the pure formless awareness that underlies all of this. The desire or prayer means that you must choose. The miracle is at the level of choice. You must choose the spirit over the ego. The prayer of the heart would be to choose to be oneself, the desire of the ego would be to remain a separate self. And then according to that choice, you will believe, think, feel, and perceive. So that's the key choice. And this process collapses all of this and takes it down to the core level of choice and says, really, it comes down to a simple choice. Always, you're going to choose to be oneself, you're going to choose to be a separate self in this situation.
Yeah. Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, back to where were we? Number 5, I think. If it does not freely elect to do so.
If it does not freely elect to do so, it retains its creative potential, but places itself under tyrannous rather than authoritative control.
Authoritative, yeah.
Oh.
Okay, does not freely elect to do so.
It does not freely choose.
No, I'll make it choose. And its creative potential places itself under tyrannous rather than authoritative control. And that's with a capital A, indicating that it's coming from spirit. Creative potential. So we've used extension, haven't we? So we need to change that to really choose to do so. Retains its potential for experiencing. That's what he means by creative potential. Yeah, we're not talking about creativity in the worldly sense of creating, art or even photography. He's talking about the creation on the level of being. Changes potential for experiencing. So you still have the potential to experience pure formless awareness of perfect love, but places itself under tyrannous. Rather than authoritative control. Oh, see, Christine just posted something. That was a very helpful session. Thank you. Not only do I have to believe I'm loved, but the subconscious belief must come into awareness in order to change it and not project out. So walking our talks means we have to do the work on ourselves and do the corrections constantly. Tall order, but if we are extensions of source, we all are, we can do it. Oh, well said. Thank you, Christine, for that. So, yeah, mighty companions, we do it together, and you know, we reinforce each other, because a lot of people are going to think you're crazy, you're doing this. They're going to go, what are you talking about? This isn't how reality.
You can't talk to many people about this stuff.
No, if they're open, if they're awakening, they can. But if they're not, they think you're in cloud cuckoo land. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Their reality is so different. You know, they in the ego, it's the opposite. It's like, this is totally opposite. How can you say what's real isn't real? Most people say, you know, you're crazy. How can you say that the world isn't real?
Yeah.
Because you can see it, feel it, touch it, taste it, smell it, perceive it. You have a body, all seems to be really real. How can you say that's not real? But if you go to, you know, the spiritual teachings and to quantum mechanics, they say the same thing. No, it's not ultimately real. Science tells us, you know, there's nothing really going on here. It's smoke and mirrors. There are no particles. You think they're particles, but then they're waves. But they're particles when you want to be particles, and they're waves when you want them to be waves. So what's really going on? Is there actually any objective reality there? Is there really? Or is it purely perception projection creating the illusion of a reality? So quantum physics says exactly what the mystics have hit on. This isn't true. And actually proves it scientifically. But even the quantum physicists don't like it. They're like, what is it saying about reality? Well, he's saying it's an illusion. He's saying there is no world. Yeshua's, you know, he says at some point in the course, there is no world. This is the central thought which the course tries to teach. There is no world. So what you perceive
that's hard. Yeah, that's hard for me to take on board. So
yeah. But ultimately that's where this is leading, right? So there is no world. You can forget it, you can let it go, because there is no world. It's false. You know, so whatever's triggering you, the text from Mark, apparently other people, it's not really there. It's a hallucination. It's a dream. It's a projection of a false mind seeming to be real. A cover, a veil of illusion, covering over the truth of pure formless awareness of perfect love. So the whole mechanism, projection perception, is false. Yeah. The belief in separation that projects this out, that makes it all up, and then it perceives it as real, that entire mechanism is false. That's what he's saying. So don't believe in any of it. Collapse it all. When you collapse it all you're left with is pure formless awareness of perfect love. That's the true authority, as he's saying here. And no matter how much you do projection perception to cover over the truth remains potential. It's possible to always experience it. Potential for experiencing it is always there. But you must choose to experience it now that you've denied it.
What does that mean? Like tyrannous rather than authoritative control.
What does that mean?
Yeah, this bit I cannot get. I don't get it. On the tyrannous rather than
authoritative control. Yeah. So tyranny is of the ego. It means it's oppressive, it's controlling, it's manipulative, it's dominating. It's not freedom, right? Yeah. So a petty tyrant. If you have a petty tyrant in your life, you know what it is. You know, that's the tyrannous control. So the petty tyrant is a symbol in your dream of the tyrannous control of the ego. It doesn't feel good, does it?
So here the authoritative control is the ego as well.
No, it's a capital A.
Yeah, but it's also referring to the ego, isn't it?
No. So tyrannous control versus authoritative. The key there is the capitalization, yeah? It's capitalized A, which means that it's coming from spirit, from God.
Okay.
So it's God's authority. Authoritative control is talking about the ultimate authority.
Okay.
And look at the root of the word. Authoritative means author. So authoritative means the source control, under the control of source. Maybe we can change that if you want, rather than under tyrannous, rather than authoritative control, under tyrannous control, rather than under the control of source. But that's quite a long way of saying it.
Or you can just put then, rather than, yeah, you wouldn't put God, right? Then God's authoritative control, rather than pure,
awareness
rather
is
than
control.
love's authoritative control, or perfect love's authoritative control.
Yeah, okay. Under tyrannous rather than perfect love's control. Yeah, but I see what he's trying to do there. The tyrannous rather than authoritative. He's saying there's two kinds of authorities, contrasting them.
Yeah.
So
I think the confusion is authoritarian.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's not saying authoritarian. It's saying authoritative, which is a different meaning. But we could say rather than the authoritative control of spirit or pure formless awareness, whatever.
Tyrannous rather than
perfect love, authoritative control.
Well, what's the opposite of tyranny? Tyranny is freedom, so rather than
free authoritative control. No, it doesn't sound right. No.
I think authoritative is important, isn't it? Because it's we are expected to follow the guidance. It's the course talks about an authorship problem. We need to recognize that there is an authorship coming from God, and we're following the guidance. So it feels like the right word. It's just that it can get confusing because of similar words.
Yeah, but it's not the authority of the ego. When you say authoritarian,
that's what I understood at the beginning. I took it.
But he's using it in a different sense. Remember, author. Look at the root of the word. Is author.
Yeah.
So who is your author or your source? That's the question.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
What about putting source in brackets after authoritative?
Because this is the translation. So whatever the translation is this is the translation.
Oh, I see. You can't add stuff to it.
Well, I didn't want to. The reason we do a clean translation, I didn't want to have loads of brackets floating around. It's just very disturbing of the flow of the reading. So, but rather than we could say rather than the control of source, but as Jackie points out, this leads into the language. We start to learn what authoritative means. So, tyrannous control.
Well, as long as we know it's God's author behind all that, it's fine.
So how about rather than under tyrannous control, rather than?
Yeah, Christine's suggestion was good. Or you can even put it in the front, like sources in brackets, sources apostrophe S, authoritative control.
Say or source, rather than the control of true authority or source. Yeah, does that make it clear then?
Yes.
Maybe put uppercase T for true authority with uppercase T. True authority.
Perfect love. The control of true authority, like perfect love. Okay. So then we know what authoritative means: true authority or source, and that's the point of the translation, is to make it clearer.
Yeah.
You can read that, and then in future you can understand what he means by authority, because he talks about it later on in the course. He talks about the authority problem. Who is your author? Who is your source? That's the only problem there is, really. So at the core level of the miracle, that's the choice you have to make. Who is your author? Who is your source in the situation? Are you going to choose the ego as your source, or the guide, pure formless awareness and perfect love, as your source? And that decision is the miracle. If you make the correct decision, that's a miracle.
Yeah.
Or a correction.
Or the correction is the miracle.
It's the same thing, yeah. When you make the decision, you were under the control of the tyrant, You choose not to be. You say, no, I choose to place myself under authoritative control, my true source, pure formless awareness of perfect love, and let that guide me in the situation. Then you've made a correction in your mind, haven't you? And you've chosen correctly. You've chosen to associate with your true self, which is the miracle in that situation, which then changes belief, thought, emotion, and perception of the situation. Okay, so as a result, it imprisons. Such are the dictates of tyrants. Lynn, you want to carry on?
Yep. Sorry, where are we in the lines?
6.
Number 6.
6. As a result, it imprisons, because such are the dictates of tyrants.
Yeah. As a result, it imprisons. You take that comment away, because such are the dictates of tyrants. You know, dictates, dictatorial, understand what I mean? A dictate is a command. It's like, you will do this, you know?
Yeah.
And if ever you've had a petty tyrant in your life, you'll know what that means. You get dictated to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then,
Yeah.
you know, but that's...
We all know these tyrants.
Yeah. But as I said, you know, I think I mentioned this earlier, but for those who didn't get that session, in the Toltec path, which is another path of awakening, in the Aztec tradition, a guy called Carlos Castaneda wrote about that, some great books in the 60s and 70s. And according to him, one of the key things, I think there were 6 things, and what stuck out for me was the petty tyrant. It was required. You needed a petty tyrant on your hero's journey to awaken.
Yeah, to see your mistakes, or to correct your mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah, as part of your initiation as an initiate in this in their school of awakening. But you needed the petty tyrant because you needed the experiences, and then you needed to overcome the petty tyrant. That was part of your learning.
That's part of the hero's journey.
Yeah. So if you have a petty tyrant, then okay, you know, it's showing you the tyrannical control of your own ego and how unpleasant it is. So instead of reacting to it and trying to fight it, you go, okay, but recognize it for what it is. It's false. It's not true and real. So if I react to it, then I'm making it real. If I don't react to it and I remain in true awareness, then I'm unaffected by it. As a result, it imprisons, because such are the dictates of tyrants. Okay? So a tyrant will always imprison you, and the true authority will seek to free you. Okay, and then last one, number 7, to change your mind.
To change your mind means to place it at the disposal of true authority. To change your mind means to place it at the disposal of true authority.
Yeah, the disposal of.
Well, we wrote true authority.
The guidance is to allow it to be guided. That's what it really means, yeah.
By true authority, no? Guided by?
Guided by true authority, yeah.
But uppercase T, right? Because we put it in the line above true authority or source. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it's on the same level as pure formless.
Yeah.
These are adjectives. Perfect love, true authority. It's part of what it is, capitalized. So yeah, you can do that. You just got to be consistent. Guided by true authority. Okay. Lynn, can you summarize that for us? What's he saying there in summary?
Change your mind means to allow it to be guided by true authority. about being guided by the truth, not ego. When we change our mind, it's because we're seeing the truth.
And the key point really is you can't serve two masters, so you must choose between these.
Yeah.
So you can choose between these masters. The one is a tyrant, which will enslave you, imprison you, and the other one will free you.
Sets you free, yeah.
But sometimes it's difficult to distinguish which one, which voice is guiding. Sometimes it's very
So that's why we need mind training.
Tricky.
Tricky. The mind training gets you
even when we do know, even when we know it's the wrong one, it's hard to change it. That's the thing, because quite often you can know you're suffering, and so you're thinking incorrectly, and it's still hard to change it. That's the learning, isn't it? It's to get to that place where you can change your mind. You can see the truth rather than the nonsense.
Yeah. Quick, ideally quickly and easily. But it's a skill you learn. As you do it and you confront the difficulty, and it's difficult to start with, and then you get better at it. Okay, well, I keep practicing this relentlessly over and over. You didn't become a great photographer overnight, did you? It was like,
no,
okay,
it's right. Yeah, it's taken a lot.
Progressively, you go out of your camera, you're learning, you're refining, you're honing. It's thousands of hours of practice to get there. Saying the same thing, you just practice. So every time you get an opportunity to practice, something triggers you, you go, okay, that's good. I welcome it, because it's another opportunity to practice and let go.
Yeah,
I can see that.
And that's how I'll learn this, and I'll get better and better if I practice at this art of letting go. So eventually I master it, and it's like mastery would be, it comes in, I'm aware of it, and I let it go, gone, over in a few seconds. So I mean, that's going to be a progression. You won't just do that straight away.
Yeah.
Do you reckon after 6 weeks of the program we can get there?
Well, you can. I'm not putting any limits on you, because you just never know.
No.
Who knows? Who am I to say? But generally, it takes longer. In my experience, it's more slow progression, and you get these insights and these shifts, and it gets progressively easier and better. But remember, you're undoing deep-seated programs. Really,
a whole life of programming.
Yeah. So I mean, 6 weeks. Wow. I mean, that's extraordinary. If it happens in 6 weeks.
Yeah, you said lifetimes of programming.
You're serious on the fast track. What you can do in the 6 weeks is you can kind of crack open the shell of the ego, and you can really see it for what it is. You can expose it, and you can fundamentally change your mind. You can make a change in direction. Say, no, I do not want the ego anymore. I choose the spirit. Okay, now the work begins. So the end of the course is just a new beginning. Okay, so now you've done your initiation. It's the introduction. Are you ready to carry on and really actualize this intention that I have, hopefully? Okay, you realize the ego's got to go, the spirit's the only way. That's your choice.
Yeah, it has to be a way of life.
Daily practice becomes a way of life. Okay, I'm committed to this. It's the only way that's going to work. So this becomes my path, spiritual path, which is a new way of life that I live in the art of letting go, and this is what I'm dedicating my life to. And then the program, the community supports you in that to keep you on track, because it's quite hard to do it on your own. It's possible, if you're really aware and you use the tools, it is possible to do on your own, but it's harder, because what tends to happen is you get knocked off, and you don't get the constant reminders, and you don't have people reinforcing this, and then it's very easy to lose faith. You're hanging out with people who don't believe in this. Because, what are you doing? That's nonsense. I don't believe that. That's ridiculous. Believe in the ego, believe in the material world. Very easy to get pulled back into that. So if you hang out, that's why in the Buddhist idea, you take refuge in the three things: in the truth, Dhamma; in the Buddha, which is the awakened self; and in Sangha, the community. You take refuge in the community of like-minded people who support you on your journey, who help you. And that's, this is just another version of that, another spiritual community online. Which means you don't have to go anywhere, you don't have to live in community. Just carry on with your life, but you check in here. This is checking into the community. And then we do it together, study it together, and we awaken together. And just the experience of joining in studying the truth is a nice experience, I find. It's lovely. So experience is self-rewarding. Some people have said, how can you spend hours and, oh my God, 6 hours on Zoom a day? That's too much. What is it? If you're connecting and there's a flow of love, and is it too much, or is it just like actually feels really nice and really natural?
Yeah. Honoring the self. I mean, the true self.
Yeah, we're honoring the self. Yeah, and we're all the same self. That's the thing.
Yeah,
it's the one self waking up to itself.
Yeah, exactly.
In a separate form. So we all have a form. We have a temporary identity, but this is the awakening of everyone to the same truth. Yeah. So it's really one mind waking up to itself, which is quite profound, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the different aspects of that mind as apparently different people are playing their part in that awakening. So we all come into the single awareness that we are one. So it's really one awareness becoming aware of itself through this process, revealing itself through this process, which is why it feels good. Because that's the only thing that does feel good. When yourself, true self, love is revealing itself. That's what makes us come alive in this world.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving swiftly on then, last paragraph. The miracle is a sign. Want to read that? Who hasn't read? Jackie, maybe? Or Christine?
I can do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I should get my phone off mute. So the miracle is a sign that the mind has chosen to be led by me in Christ's service. The correction is a sign that the mind has chosen to be led by me in my true self's service.
Okay, so to be led by, he's talking about me as Yeshua in my true self service. That kind of makes sense, because it's his true self, but it's also your true self. In maybe
our true selves,
our true self service. So it's the same self, and I'm just showing you that there's this who you really are, an example of who you really are.
So we need to change this self. Do we from a singular to a plural?
Be led by me. And our true selves. No, because it's one self.
Okay.
So it's still the same self. Our true selves, it's still singular. Yeah.
Okay. Do we want to put led by me, comma, Yeshua, comma, just to be clear?
Led by me. Yeah, okay. Don't really like brackets, but
okay.
Do you think it's not clear who's speaking?
I think that can be an issue in the course. So
yeah, we can put it in. The idea of the translation is
why don't you put uppercase M at me like me, so we know it's Jesus, Yeshua, Jesus.
Me.
Could be. I don't know. Are we distinguishing between Yeshua and the Holy Spirit, or?
Well, you see, who's saying the lead? Led by me. He's actually not a person anymore, is he? So he's actually the Christ mind. So led by, how about this? We'll solve the problem like this. Led by my true self in our true self service. How about that?
I think that's a bit complicated. I think I'd rather have me with a capital M.
Okay.
You don't put uppercase T for true self. True.
True selves. Well, if we're going to do that, we need to be consistent. So yeah,
Okay.
we'll go that route. I guess we've capitalized perfect love and we capitalized pure formless awareness. So true self, it's referring to the Christ self coming from God, led by me in our true self's service. So this is kind of, I guess, the me then capitalized would be the Christ, yeah?
Yeah.
Denotes the Christ or the true self.
Christ is Yeshua, right? It's the same.
No, Yeshua was a person, right? So Yeshua was the person who attained the Christ mind. He identified fully with the Christ as his self, and so he let go of the personal identity.
We always say Jesus Christ. Like some people, even when this well, kind of, I don't know, in brackets. I mean, in brackets, swear they say Jesus Christ. Like I hear people say Jesus Christ. So
yeah, well, he was the Christ. So he was Yeshua, the Christ. The Christ is the title. He attained the state of enlightenment. That's what it's saying. The state of being identified fully with his one self. So in that statement, Yeshua the Christ, it acknowledges, okay, he seemed to be Yeshua, personal identity, but he actually became the Christ. He became the one self. So he's speaking to us not as Yeshua, but he's speaking to us from his Christ mind. It's not really Yeshua, because there's no personal identity left. You know, his body's gone. There's no personal identity left. So Yeshua doesn't exist anymore. It's Christ's mind. The personal self. He uses his name because that's useful for us. We go, oh, okay, so that's who's speaking. We can relate to that. Yeah, like actually, it's our own true self that's speaking to us. Right? So it's your own true self correcting you in the dream, reminding you of who you really are. And he was the first one to attain the full knowledge of that true self. So then, he, Yeshua, the mind that used to be Yeshua is now the Christ mind, is speaking to us from outside of our dream, reminding us of who we really are and reminding us of our future state. What we will become if we listen to him is become the same as him, one with the true self. So it's our own true future self, still in time, apparently future, coming to us now, reminding us of who we are through this course.
Did he even exist, Jesus Christ? Or is he an imaginary character?
Well, the historical record, I mean, you can go into, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but it would seem there's so much evidence. You know, there were eyewitness accounts of his life, and it was recorded in the gospel. So it was it would have been a huge, false hoax to make all that up and just write all those gospels from no experience. It's very unlikely. Because how would then those men, the disciples, have gone out so inspired and done what they did if there wasn't a character who inspired them? So I think
there were historians at the time that also wrote or referred to a man doing the sorts of things that Jesus was doing. One called Josephus, and it's considered pretty good evidence.
To be historically that there was a person, and then how would a movement like the Christianity have started without a very powerful leader, someone who established it? And why would his disciples go out and risk their lives to teach a truth if there hadn't been someone who inspired them to do that? See, very unlikely there would have been a mythical
I don't know, because people can create stories, all sorts of stories, as you can see in the history of humanity. People can create stories, so you never know.
Then how do you explain the rising of Christianity then, if there wasn't a founder? And then you would have to question all of them. Okay, so did the Buddha exist? Did Lao Tzu exist then? Did Muhammad exist? Did these people actually exist then?
Yeah.
Well, one would think so, because the historical records are there, And their lives led to, you know, the founding of these major religions. So there was a cause apparently in time, being the person and their connection with source, and then, you know, how they expressed it, and then that led to the belief system, which became a religion, developing. And their life was what established that. So you'd have to then question all of it. Well, okay, you can go down that road, but I'm not sure it's helpful at all. I think it's more helpful to say, okay, you know, accept, yeah, he did live, but in the end, it's all illusion anyway. So
exactly,
really,
that's why I'm questioning everything.
A character
If
appeared
everything is an
dream,
illusion, what makes you think that this whole story is not an illusion as well? Like all this history or the stories that we hear, that we've been, you know,
it's part of the illusion, but it's you know, it's true in the illusion. It seemed to happen in the illusion, but actually, you know, if you look at the illusion, it's all a dream. So none of it really happened. But there seemed to be a character in the dream who came in and came to full realization of who he was, and we called him Yeshua the Christ. And now he's teaching us from outside of the dream how he did it, you know, how he awakened. He's teaching us his mindset, his philosophy. He's teaching us his practices, which is letting go, to help us take the same journey and awaken as well. Just is all we really need to know. You know, this is your true self coming to you from outside of the dream, telling you to catch a wake up and wake up to yourself. Okay.
And Yeshua, how do you get to Yeshua from like Jesus? What makes it Yeshua?
Well, Yeshua is his real name.
Oh, okay.
Jesus wasn't his name. That's an anglicization of his name. His name was Yeshua. His Hebrew name is Yeshua. He was never called Jesus.
It's the Hebrew, yeah.
So they changed it and they said, no, we'll call him Jesus, which is again is now you're going away from original. So last year someone said to me, you know, when I said Yeshua, I said, oh, that's really helpful because you know, I've grown up with Jesus and I have a bit of an allergic reaction to the name because of the church, and you know, Jesus forced down my throat. Jesus saves and Jesus this and Jesus that. So change his name. Okay, well, so change his name. Then you undo the conditioning. It's a translation that could, you know, open you up to, okay, well, actually, maybe he was just Yeshua. He was a man called Yeshua. He had a normal name, normal life, but he attained the Christ mind. He attained the Christ consciousness. So then he was the Christ. At the end of his life, he was not identified with Yeshua anymore. Yeshua had died and he'd been reborn into his true self as the Christ. And he taught that. He taught and he healed from that state of mind as an example to all of us of who we can be. So he represents our true self. You know, and he says the only way to the Father is through me. He means the Christ. Identify with the Christ as I did. That's the way to the Father. The source. If you look at the Holy Trinity's operating system there, it's very clear. Through the Christ, the one self, by identifying fully with that, you will attain the experience of the Father, pure formless awareness of perfect love. You know, that's why the Christ leads to God.
Do we have to put this picture in our manual, course manual?
Yes.
You can see it.
Yeah, in the updated one, I put it in recently. I hadn't included it up front, and I realized that was an oversight. So the latest version, which I sent out in an email a couple of days ago, it's also sent it out on Telegram.
And it has the map of consciousness as well, or no? I mean the timeline. Sorry, the timeline.
Yeah, it's in there, all in there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think I printed the old one then.
Now you can see diagrammatically, you know, that's the source, the authority, and then we are the extension of that as the Christ, the one self comes from this state of awareness. You can't have one self without having pure formless awareness of perfect love as the awareness that is its foundation. See? So this becomes an extension of, son of, which is able now to perceive correctly the dream and reinterpret it for us. So Christ can perceive the dream through the Holy Spirit, which is the transformation of your perception, perceives correctly, and the Christ and the Holy Spirit will lead you back to the experience of pure formless awareness of perfect love, which is God. So Christ and the Holy Spirit deliver you to God. And therein is the correct interpretation of the Holy Trinity, which you probably will not see in Christian theology anyway, because they don't understand it. But that's what it is. It's an operating system for your life to return your mind to the ultimate state of pure formless awareness of perfect love, when the Christ and the Holy Spirit are not necessary anymore. So they fade away, and you merge into God as pure formless awareness of perfect love. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we've done sentence number 1. We're happy with that. Number 2, Jackie.
Okay. The abundance of Christ is the natural result of choosing to follow him. The abundance of my true self is the natural result of choosing to follow it. Okay, seems clear.
Yeah. So I experience this abundance in my experience of life, which will come naturally if I choose to follow it. So the choice to follow it is the corrections that I make. Then I choose to follow its guidance, and I experience the abundance that comes from pure formless awareness. Because pure formless awareness is by definition abundant. It's infinite.
Okay.
Okay, number 3.
All shallow roots must be uprooted. Oh, that's really funny. Saying to Lynn on our walk that I felt a bit uprooted. I haven't come across that word in the course before.
There you go.
So all shallow roots must be uprooted because they are not deep enough to sustain you. All shallow roots must be uprooted. Oh, I said updated. That's interesting. Uprooted because they are not deep enough to sustain you.
Mm-hmm. So you can't update shallow roots because they're still shallow, you see, but you can uproot. So they must be pulled up like weeds. And the only way to, weed a garden is to uproot it. Otherwise it just grows again.
So it's from the sense of a program, an operating system. We're updating the program. So in that sense, maybe, but yeah, I mean,
it's an opposite program. You're taking out Windows and you're putting in Linux. It's a completely different operating system.
Yeah.
So the Windows must be completely cleaned off in order for the new operating system to come in.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So all, yeah.
Because they're not deep enough to sustain you. The idea of the rock, building your house on the rock. These shallow roots will not sustain you through your life because they will fail you. Because the winds will come, the rains will come, the adversity will come, and they won't sustain you because you don't have true faith in anything. Your life is built on an illusion of the self.
Yeah.
And when you face the adversities and you find you wobbling, that's a sign that the shallow roots are not going to sustain you. Therefore, go deeper, uproot them, and go beyond them to what will sustain you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that feels very relevant. And I got back this evening and a book by Sandy Levy-London, who we've spoken about, and she talks about, and it was literally how she came to A Course in Miracles and studied it day and night, and which is the answer, of course. So it feels very relevant to have just read that. So where did we get to? The illusion that shallow roots can be deepened and thus made to hold is one of the distortions on which the reverse of the golden rule rests. Okay.
Yeah.
The illusion that shallow roots can be deepened and thus made to hold is one of the distortions on which the reverse of the golden rule rests. Reverse.
Yeah.
So the golden rule is that do unto others as you would do. On which the reverse of the golden. So
the reverse of the golden rule is
look after yourself.
Don't honor it.
It's what?
Honor yourself. Don't care. Someone, when people say, it's not my problem. If you had that,
me first. Okay.
Whatever. That's the reverse of the golden rule. He's saying you can't correct it by deepening shallow roots.
No. Okay.
Let's say you were in a traditional Christian mindset, and you don't really know your true self. It's all external. I'm going to be saved by Jesus, for instance. Those shallow roots cannot be deepened and made to hold.
Yeah.
You need to uproot that whole thought system. Otherwise, you keep distorting this. And I've seen that a couple of times in the last little while in my experience, that so-called, very pious Christians going to church, there's a distortion, and the golden rule is not clearly not obeyed. You're not doing unto others you have them do unto you. And so there's you need to uproot the whole thought system to be able to really apply it and do the golden rule. You can't believe falsely and still apply the golden rule.
Mm.
So
okay.
Really quite relevant as well from my experience.
Yeah,
that's what happened. Read and then say, oh, okay, just the right teaching coming in.
Yeah, very interesting. So where do we get to?
As these false underpinnings.
Okay, you want me to read the original? Okay, as these false underpinnings are given up, the equilibrium is temporarily experienced as unstable. Yes, that's interesting as well.
It's always worth remembering.
Yeah.
So you have a seemingly stable thought system in the ego, and then it's all going to be uprooted. And as what Cyphers say to Neo in the Matrix, he says, like, what does that even mean? He says, buckle your seatbelts, Dorothy, because Kansas is going bye-bye. Means everything's going to go up in the air. Your so-called stable illusion is just going to be cracked open, and it's going to be very disconcerting because the foundation of your reality is going to wobble, and you're going to go, whoa, what I thought was real was actually not that real. And a lot of people freak out and they go, I can't handle that. So I retreat back into the known world. You look at the hero journey. The known world is, the world of the ego, which it's trying to continuously bring us back into. Hero's journey. Go back into the known world. It says, don't carry on. This isn't just madness, because there's safety here. It says this is safe. This is secure. Everything was okay. Everything go back to how it was, rather than
living that.
It wasn't. It's tempting, but it wasn't that great, if you're honest.
No. Yeah, absolutely, totally.
So the only way forward is through. Keep going on the hero's journey, away from it, in an opposite direction. You can't follow the ego's guidance telling you to go back into the known world, and the spirit's guidance telling you to push on into the unknown world. You can't do both. It's going to be one or the other.
That might be why my offer on the flat in Wimbledon's been rejected.
Right.
Okay. My ability to keep a foot in the known world.
Yeah.
So,
interesting.
Yeah.
You go, okay, maybe it's all happening for me. Maybe it's meant to be. You see?
Yeah.
It's all happening for you, and the only purpose of your life is awakening. So if the spirit's directing, then it's going to direct you in a way that's going to awaken you. That might seem on the level of form to be a challenge or a temptation or a trial, but actually it's part of the awakening journey. He says, all things, you must acknowledge that all things that happen are actually beneficial. All things are serving you, and that's deep learning, isn't it? Everything that happens. So the worst things are actually helping me. That's what this teaching will help you to understand, which means that you have huge resilience. See how this makes you so resilient in adversity. okay, this is helping me. What's the lesson? I reinterpret it. I don't get stuck in, oh, poor me, why is this happening to me? Story. It's okay, why is it happening to me? Okay, it's showing me something. What can I learn from this? How can I grow? Then bring it on. Whatever comes, you reinterpret it. Which will eventually get rid of the ego. And that's the transformation into your true self. So he's telling us, okay, well, expect, stuff's going to go, the equilibrium's going to be disturbed. In the unknown world, it's not all going to be stable and as it was. Things are going to be moving and shifting, and you're going to feel times where I don't really know what's happening. And, am I losing my mind? Am my reality shifting? It feels scary. And so that's part of the destabilizing, the disillusionment of the ego, right? You must become disillusioned before you can become enlightened. Literally, without illusions, disillusioned. And that can feel quite depressing at times, quite scary. Like, what's the point of it all? Because you come to the realization there's no point. But when you see the point is to awaken to something so transcendently amazing, then that keeps you going. Okay, well, there is a point, because I'm going into an experience that is not of this world. Okay, well, that's inspiring. That keeps me going. And while I'm here, I can express that. I can extend that into the world in my own unique way and bring these gifts into the world. And that's my purpose here. I serve the Christ mind while I'm here, doing what I do. Okay, so let's finish this off. As these false underpinnings are given up, equilibrium is temporarily experienced as unstable. And you've experienced that, haven't you, in the last year?
Yeah, definitely.
What's happening? And you start questioning and going, well, is this normal? But he's saying, yes, it is normal. It's part of the you expect it.
Yeah, very reassuring. However, nothing is less stable than an upside down orientation. Yeah. Well, that's, there's a book by, what's her name, Carrie Triffett. She's an A Course in Miracles teacher. The Frickin' Map's Upside Down, it's called. She's Australian. And yeah, but there's no point trying to look at the ego world and pretend, however stable it may superficially seem. Pretend that is reality, because we're looking at it upside down, the wrong way around.
It is upside down. This is why the world's not stable. Things are always shifting and changing, and then we expect reality to be stable, but it's not. And then things change, and we go, "Oh, that's terrible." Like Britain, people thought of it maybe as a stable society, and now things are changing. And it's going to the dogs, and because nothing's really stable. Well, nothing lasts, so everything's changing all the time. So it's just a reflection in the mirror, and nothing here is stable. You thought you established a stable society that's first world and it's untouchable, but it's not. It's actually very fragile, because it's based on an upside down orientation. And our entire system, the systems that govern this world, are based on an upside down orientation. Well, they can't last then. It's inevitable that they're going to fall sooner or later. And I think we're in the time of that fall. And then feels very destabilizing. But in that chaos comes the opportunity for something new. The old system must break in order for a new one to arise. Inspired by the Spirit. So we're living through those times. Very interesting. And when you think about it, you're like, well, what else am I here to do? Bring it on. I had, when the COVID pandemic hit, had sort of 2 weeks of working through some quite deep, dark emotions. Going like, well, what's the point of it all? Just hopeless, pointless, these crazy minds that are, engineering a pandemic and trying to control us and da-da-da-da. But actually, you looked at it differently. I was like, well, this is what I came for. This is my awakening. This is what I'm preparing for my entire life. So why am I scared of it? Bring it on. This is when I can awaken from the dream. Don't shy away from it. This is exactly when, in the turmoil, you come to your awakening and you free yourself. So bring it on. Come, bring it on. Let's do it. Let's confront the old thought system, being the ego, and undo it. I believe it's never been a better time to do it, because of the, where we are. Look at the technology we have now, the teachings. We have a Course in Miracles that didn't exist 50 years ago. Now we have it, technology to be able to share it. We have all the tools. It's like, wow, what an opportunity to awaken from the dream of lifetimes.
Yeah.
You're in the right place at the right time, in all of time and space. Right now is the time of your awakening, and you can just be grateful for it. So, okay, and this is all part of that unfolding journey for you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very encouraging.
Okay, and then the last one.
Nor can anything that holds it upside down be conducive to increased stability. I suppose the belief system that holds the illusion in place, the egoic belief system that there's nothing that can do in the long run to increase stability. It's it's a broken system.
Yeah. So all the attempts to shore up a false system are useless. It can't really be conducive to increased stability. Might as well just do away with the whole house of cards and start again. From the point of view of truth. If truth is inspiring the system, then it will be sustainable. That's the only way that anything will sustain, is if it's inspired by what's permanent, obviously. The spirit, in pure formless awareness of perfect love that's eternal, can inspire structures that are much more sustainable. Nothing in form lasts, we know that. It'll be a lot more sustainable than what we've invented from the ego, because the ego is by definition temporary. You can only believe in the temporary, and it is then therefore a death wish. Everything that it makes up and creates will fail and will die. So that's not sustainable at all. Right? It's going to destroy everything it's created. And we're just going to witness that, but then don't be moved. Understand that it was all illusion to start with. So what you're seeing is the destruction of an illusion. The truth cannot be destroyed because it's beyond destruction. It's beyond anything the ego can touch. It's essential, now you free your mind from these false underpinnings. Recognize that, illusion is illusion, and I'm not attached to it, because as they deconstruct, as your external world deconstructs, you don't suffer then. I was never attached to it. It was never true. So why would I suffer over the loss of what was never there? Do you see the insanity? It's an illusion. It was never there. Now I'm apparently suffering because I've lost something, but it was never there to start with. So how could I really have lost it then? Only an illusion of a belief system that could believe that what was not there is there. Convince us that the untrue is true. And ultimately where this is leading us to realization of ultimate truth. And therefore that all illusion is illusion. Illusion is illusion, truth is truth. Only the truth is true. That means nothing else can be true. So all illusion must be false, logical. Very simple logic. But then how do you live that logic? That's what the mind training is about. How do you actually live in that way? Be in the world, but not of the world. Okay, so what's he saying in the final paragraph there?
Let me do that. Try and remember it all. So the correction or the miracle shows that we have chosen to be led by Spirit, our true self. And as a result of that, we'll experience abundance, although perhaps not the abundance in the traditional egoic sense, abundance of peace, love, that comes naturally from following the guidance of Spirit. So all shallow roots, so belief in an egoic system, all limiting beliefs, all that sort of stuff, none of that can last in the long run. That's part of the old world. And there's nothing you can do to change that. That's, the ego's way of living for the self. But in giving up the egoic world and the egoic beliefs, we can feel destabilized for a while. But that's inevitable. The alternative of going back to the ego's world isn't an alternative, because that's an upside down way of looking at things, and once you can't go back. So there really is no choice. Once you're given this knowledge, once you understand it, you have to go forwards, or go around in circles.
Only way out is through. Going back is not an option. That's why Neo, when he's been freed from the Matrix, he says to Morpheus, can I go back? Can't go back, can I?
Yeah.
And he said, no, but if you could, would you want to? Would you really want to go back into a dream? Now, knowing that it's a dream, it's not really possible.
Yeah. There's a biblical quote, to whom much is given, much is expected. And the way I understand that is that you're given the knowledge. If you've had the opportunity to have this knowledge, you are expected to go forward with it. That's you've been given the gift. You have to take it. Yeah.
And you're expected that the Spirit asks you to express it in the world, asks you to be the willing servant of it. While you're here in time and space, to do your part in that one-ment, because that's the only way that it works. It needs the people to show up, being guided by the Spirit to allow it to unfold. So it calls you, expects much of you. It says, I've given you these great gifts, but I call you to do this work. I mean, look at Yeshua, huge. Look at what it asked him to do. Extraordinary. You go, you be the Messiah to your people, you teach this, you do the miracles, and then you go through the crucifixion and the resurrection to demonstrate this truth to people in the physical, in the flesh. You're going to demonstrate it, and that way people will believe. Your disciples will believe, and this will become a world teaching. So that was what he was asked to do. The final prayer, when he's in the Garden of Gethsemane, it's not my will, Father, but your will be done. Total surrender. Okay, I'm going to go through this experience because it is the will of God. It's been grossly misinterpreted. Christians say, well, God had to make him suffer and punish for the sins of humanity. His own son, he had to crucify to, some kind of atonement for the sins, some kind of sacrifice in the way they used to sacrifice animals. No, not at all. It was necessary to reveal the truth to people. It was necessary for him to enact the crucifixion resurrection drama, because that's the drama of the ego and the Spirit, isn't it? Ego crucifies us, brings us to death. Spirit resurrects us into eternal life. He had to demonstrate that so clearly so that his disciples would believe, so the teaching would go out and become the world teaching that it became. It got distorted greatly in the process, but as a result, we're now picking up on that thread, and he's now saying, this is what I really taught. So the reference of Christianity, it's all part of a plan. If he hadn't come and done all of that and done the crucifixion, resurrection, and it hadn't become Christianity, then we wouldn't be here now studying this and learning. So it's all part of the bigger plan.
Yeah.
And he knew that. He was given the guidance. He wouldn't necessarily have known how it would all have unfolded at that point in time, but he would have been given the guidance. Okay, you need to do this. This is your path. You need to walk this. You need to go through this crucifixion, resurrection drama to serve the plan of the at-one-ment. So it's an important part of the plan. And so he said, not my will, but thy will be done. Okay, I surrender to that. So, ultimate act of surrender, really, in human history. I mean, there'd been many, but it's pretty hardcore. He knows they're coming. He could have run away. He had supporters. He could have gone and hidden in the hills, and he would have been okay, but then we never would have heard of him, because that crucifixion, resurrection was what brought his teaching into the world teaching that it is. And that's why we're now studying his words. And, Spirit knew, okay, this drama needs to play out in the physical in order for all of this to unfold. And he played his part. He did what he had to do. Went through the apparent suffering of it would have only been about 24 hours that he apparently suffered, and then it was done. And then, so he was like, okay, well, it's worth it. But extraordinary. You can only go, we can't even comprehend the extent of that love, really. Saying, okay, I love everyone so much that I will go through this experience because it's necessary for everyone's awakening. That's the true interpretation of the crucifixion. Not I'll go through this to die for the sins of others, and then I do it for them and they don't have to do it. No, it was to be an example to us, and just show us the way out of our dream. So he did it for everyone, for all of humanity.
Yeah. What do you think about we don't even know if it's true, but the Gospels talk about the fear that he experienced the night before in the Garden of Gethsemane. I would have thought
they weren't written by him. They don't know, but I suspect that was the final undoing of his ego. It was like the final, okay, I'm facing death now. I know this is it. I'm facing the death of the body. I'd be very surprised if he didn't have some reactions like, oh, okay, so then he goes and he prays and he puts himself fully in the Spirit, and that was his final lesson, his final okay, major letting go lesson in his life. Okay, I'm going to let go of the attachment to the body. I'm going to let go of trying to save my own skin, the survival instinct of the human self, and I'm going to willingly go through this experience and allow it because it's necessary. Huge. I mean, that's surrender, huge surrender, courage. I mean, I suppose it goes beyond courage. I think in that moment he genuinely said, okay, I'm final surrender of the human self to the divine, which is why he could resurrect, because he was so in the life essence that his soul or spirit could come back. He could just go, okay, I'll infuse myself back into the body. I can choose to come back and then, awaken the body, and huge surge of energy, which would have been why, the tomb got blown open, massive electromagnetic energy when that happened, which is why they would have seen the light and the stone getting blown away, and, because it was going, dealing with huge energies on the quantum level, would have been released. And then you have the shroud, was burnt in, because it's like so much energy coming back into the body that made an impact. So it would seem to be all true. I mean, the accounts would seem to indicate that it really did happen, and that it was a demonstration that death isn't real. He was demonstrating that in the physical, so his disciples would believe, and they would go out and they would risk their own lives to teach this, because he knew it's going to be, it was going to test it. It wasn't going to be well accepted everywhere. So he had to inspire them with his personal example through the crucifixion and the resurrection. He said, well, if Yeshua did it, I can do it too. He led the way, and some of them did get crucified and killed for their teaching. Okay, so what we're gonna do, which won't take too long, is just try and summarize it. The key message of this section is that key messages of section are that. So just go back to number 1. So you can, what he's saying here is you can make an empty shell, but you can express nothing more. So you can wait, delay, paralyze yourself, but you cannot abolish it. It's the first paragraph that he's talking about. You can wait. To awaken. Reduce your awareness of truth almost to nothing, but cannot destroy it. So he talked about the potential for awakening to it will always be there. Okay, so number 2 was basic decision of the miracle mind is not to wait on time. Okay, so that's an important point. Sticking the sort of key points in each paragraph. Correction minded of to make corrections as they are required. Decision of those who choose to awaken is not to delay in time any longer than is necessary, but to make corrections as they are required. So you don't delay in time. So look, 3 moments has been completed. Everyone will be the same. As everyone all right. And to everyone, so we are all They're all special. No one is more special than anyone else. So all the extensions have its total love. Everyone has the total love of. And all its gifts. So we're all special, but no one is more special than anyone else. Okay. Number 3, number 4. So therefore we must all return. Corrections are affirmations of extension. It's a nice one. State of completion and abundance. To which everyone must ultimately return. Anyone wants to help me here, you're welcome to. Just going doing this. Affirmations of this love. Which everyone must ultimately return. And then idea of tyrannous rather than authoritative control. Personalize itself so that I can wait. So personalize, but I cannot destroy its potential for awakening. So my potential awakening to it will always be there. Decision of those who choose to awaken is not to delay in time. So my decision is to awaken, and so not to delay in time any longer as necessary, but to make corrections as they are required. So I am special, but no more special than anyone else. Okay, so we personalize all of this. Corrections, affirmations of this perfect love, state of completion to which I and everyone else ultimately turn. So if you not freely choose to do so, have the potential for experiencing your form of someone as a perfect love, but place myself under tyrannous rather than tyrannous control of my separate self rather than the control of true authority, which is my true source. Okay, and the final one. Abundance. I will experience abundance for my true self. And I choose to follow it. All shadow roots must be as I do this, I must uproot the ego, root the thought system, of the separate self, my separate self. Yep, no problem. Thanks, Lynn. Uproot the thought system of my separate self. And will temporarily temporarily experience the equilibrium in my life being disturbed. Experience as a result Okay, so I think that'll do. Just taking the key points, put it into a personalized executive summary. So who wants to read that? Who's still with me? Orly or Elaine? Or Jackie? Anyone still there? Jackie's still there.
I'll read.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's a personalized, it's like how you make this section into something that's very practical to your life and actionable by you.
Okay. The key messages of this section are that I can wait to awaken or reduce my awareness of truth almost to nothing, but I cannot destroy it. So my potential for awakening to it will always be there. My decision is to awaken, and so not to delay in time any longer than is necessary, but to make corrections as they are required. Everyone has the total love of our source and all its gifts, so I am special, but no more special than anyone else. Miracles or corrections are affirmations of this perfect love, which is a state of completion and abundance to which I and everyone else must ultimately return. If I do not freely choose to do so, I will also have the potential for experiencing pure formless awareness of perfect love, but I place myself under the tyrannous control of my separate self rather than the control of true authority, which is my true source. I would experience the abundance. I would experience the abundance of my true self when I choose to follow it. But as I do this, I must uproot the thought system of my separate self and will temporarily experience the equilibrium in my life being disturbed as a result. Because it disequilibrium. However, I know that nothing is less stable than an upside down orientation, and nothing that holds it upside down can be conducive to my increased stability.
There you have okay, that's application to your life. You take some of those and apply it.
Yeah.
To your life, which makes it very practical. So the key thing of the text is it can be quite theoretical and dry. It's to make it practical in your life and see the application.
Yeah.
And that's what the personalized executive summary is designed to do. Okay, so read it, and then you get the nuggets of this whole section in in one longish paragraph, but that you can apply. So that's what we're going to do for just to add some value to it, to add to every section. And then, yeah, once we're done with the document, then you have it. We have it for future years.
Yeah.
And the translation. So we'll get the whole course done in this way.
Yeah.
Which, will ultimately, hopefully, be very helpful for people to be able to understand, this great teaching and discussions. So if people want to do a deep dive, they can listen to the recording. It's okay. So I'll go through it and listen to it line by line, dissect it. Okay. So what's the time? 8. We could do a little meditation on it if you want, or we can call it a night. It's up to you.
Well, the vote here is to call it a night, but if anybody else say they're more than welcome.
I'm just, I'm gonna say cheerio and good night, but very good session. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Johnny.
Yes.
Well, it's a deep dive, isn't it? It's like a thorough, and like every session is like it's a transformational journey in itself. Every session, if you do it.
It is.
So we keep doing this for a year, and you work through the whole text this way. I mean, can you imagine the amount of shift and change you'll have?
Yeah.
And it's
absolutely.
And being having the courage to go into the unknown. That's the bit that I'm looking at.
Yeah, and that equilibrium being disturbed.
Yes, so I've got to.
Things are being disturbed, and your ego won't like that. But he's saying the ego is never stable. There's never a stable thought system. You can never really rely on it.
No, it's not. No.
Why not just abandon it and say, okay, well, let's go through temporary disequilibrium, where
absolutely, yes.
It's like that those balls with whatever snowflakes, and you turn it upside down, then everything goes up. It's all confused, and then takes time to settle. So because you've reversed it completely.
Yeah,
that's kind of what we're doing.
Well, we've got nothing to lose, really. Yes, you
say. All you've got to lose is your ego, your separate self, and everything that goes with it.
Yeah.
So that's your separate self, your identity, personal identity, the body, special relationships. The ego values all this stuff. It says, oh no, but you're losing something real. But the spirit says, but it was never, it was never real. These were the bars of the prison you put yourself in that kept you in the prison. So, you're willing to let go of all of them to be free.
Yeah.
And there's something in us that knows that message is ultimately true. So we just keep going into it, keep journeying, and this every time you do a session, it's a transformational session. It's a little hero's journey. You go through it, you understand more, insights come, awakening comes, and you keep doing it. One they build on each other. So you can't help but awaken then.
I think I can just press them.
It's a done deal. Okay, so Lane's departing orally. You still with us? So just so you know, Sunday the session is going to be a bit later. There's no live session tomorrow. Sunday afternoon, it's going to be at 5 p.m. UK time. So that's 6 p.m. Sorry. I'm playing a transformation game with. In fact, we should give it an extra half an hour. We make it 5:30.
Yeah, that's fine. 5:30 is good.
Because we finish in a transformation game. It's about 4 hours at 5, so we might just need a little break to restart. Get from the toilet, get ready for the next one, and then we go into the live call. Okay, so I'll see you then. Practice well. I'll send you an email tomorrow with some stuff to work on. Use tomorrow to just deal with anything you haven't dealt with. Catch up on any recordings that you'd like to listen to. Do your normal meditations, and do exercise 1 in the manual, in the course manual, before the Sunday session. Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Good
okay.
night. Good night.
Night.
Thank
See
you.
you,
Good
Zoe.
night. Bye.
All right. All
Bye.
right. See you
Bye.
Sunday. Have a good weekend.
You too.
You too.
Namaste.
Namaste.